Primetime Crisis Week 5. I am Captain Logan, and with me tonight is my wonderful band of cohorts. We've got Dan Torrey.
What's up, guys?
It's Beware the Steve Baxi.
Hey, everybody.
And the ever-intimidating The Real Manos.
Why would you say that?
I don't know. You're kind of freaking me out right now. So, as you can tell, we are not live tonight. We apologize for that. I've got... Wow, that is freaky. Yeah. Do you want... Manos, do you want $1 million?
Sure, that sounds good.
Oh, I'm not offering you $1 million. Anyway, so... This week, unfortunately, we had a bit of a setback here on the channel. We got a copyright strike. I'm working on, as I'm sure you know by now, and I'm working on getting it overturned. But in the meantime, we are not able to broadcast live, so we decided for the folks that really enjoy listening to the discussion shows all at the same time, now that they're a little bit shorter, we would go ahead and just do the show like we usually do it, except, you know, without you folks talking to us at the same time and without a poll or anything like that. We'll just poll ourselves. We'll just poll ourselves. And Manos votes for Agent Carter. And anyway,
that can always be. Look, that's always going to happen. So don't worry.
And then
you can do that when I'm not even here.
And then in March, in March, he will always vote for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So. Tonight we are covering 6 shows. Once again, we've got the whole gambit of everything. We're going to begin, as always, with Agent Carter, and why don't we folks go ahead and just start right in on it, shall we? Putting 25 minutes on the clock so that we all get to say our piece a little bit, and I want to start this week with Dan Torrey. Dan, because we can actually hear Dan and he can hear us. So, Dan... what did you think about this week's episode of Agent Carter? This is the Iron Ceiling.
This was a really, really good episode of the show. I mean, all of them have been really impressive so far, but I think this may be one of, if not my favorite episodes of the show so far. It seems like we say that every week, but I really did enjoy this one. I love that we're getting to do a little bit of globe-trotting. We went to Russia in this episode. I didn't really expect to see that in this series, but that was very cool to see. I liked all the background stuff about the Black Widow program that Natasha is probably involved with later on in the timeline, or maybe that little girl that stabbed Dum Dum was her, who knows. It was cool to see the Howling Commandos again. I liked all the character stuff with Peggy and the agent from the SSR that she took with her on the mission. All the stuff about him killing the Japanese soldiers that walked into his camp before realizing that they were waving a white flag was really interesting. It really sort of tragic. It brought a lot of dimension to that character because he was sort of just like the stereotypical, macho, misogynist guy from the 40s before, and he has a lot more dimension to him now. I liked all that stuff. I don't know, this series continues to impress every episode. There's stuff happening that I wouldn't expect. I love how smart Daniel is, the fact that he figured out who Peggy is by the markings on her shoulder.
Yeah.
All that. This series is really, really good. I'm really enjoying it so far.
Manos.
I just want to agree with pretty much everything Dan said. This was a very solid episode. I do love the trip to Russia. And starting with last week's episode, the bringing in of Black Widow program, the Red Room stuff, is a delightful surprise to the series. And it just goes to show you the world building that this show has been doing that I think is rather just wonderful, and it's doing it such in an easy fashion. It just doesn't feel like it's trying to do this. It's doing it very effortlessly. Also agreed with Thompson. The Thompson stuff was very good. Right, instead of like a one-dimensional, you're a two-dimensional misanthrope. And I loved all that stuff because he was, of course, like, I shouldn't bring a woman into this, which is hilarious. She was fighting the Red Skull, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's the one who freezes up, actually. And if you have any doubt that Peggy is a much better person than him, just imagine how he would have reacted if it was the reverse. I mean, to him, I mean, he would have probably had her like completely like thrown out of the agency if that happened. So yeah, and of course, I'm with you 100%. I think that little girl is the Black Widow, is Nastasha. The character, they they established her age in Winter Soldier, but it was just simply a file. I mean, that could have easily been faked. In the comics, she is around, I guess, 80 now, because she was born in the 40s or late 30s. She was a child in the world, so that repeating itself in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well.
Yeah, it's kind of getting to the point where they'd have to do some sort of aging thing with her to make her the age Scarlett Johansson is and still be around for when the Soviet Union was still standing.
Yeah, that's the thing I keep wondering about, is if there's some kind of alternate history here with the Marvel Cinematic Universe where the Soviet Union just lasted longer, but there hasn't been any talk about it.
Well, listen, she has a line about seeing Regime's fall in the Avengers movie. To me, that suggests, she's probably older than she looks.
But then what you gotta wonder is why nobody's asked her the question on camera yet.
No one's I mean, that still looks like she's 20. If she was around during the Cold War, it probably doesn't occur to anybody.
I don't know. I think there are definitely people who seem to know that she has something to do with the Soviet Union that would ask that question. But I don't know. If that is not who that is supposed to be, they were certainly alluding to the idea that that's who it was. And honestly, I think it's possible that we'll never know. Or at least that we won't know until one of the movies finally tells us how old she is.
I don't think Ultron seems to be playing around with that material.
Yeah, and maybe that's setting us up a bit for Ultron. That's a great point. I don't think this series is gonna tell us that. There's really no way it would unless Scarlett Johansson shows up in Agent Carter playing like or it would even have to be probably a teenage actress. Come to think of it, wouldn't it? Because that would have been like 37. So I don't think that'll happen. I don't think we'll see a teenage Black Widow in the show.
I agree. I don't think we'll probably dig any further into this show.
That was that was definitely kind of a drop. Well, if that's what it is, I'll throw my 2 cents in here really quick. I did not expect to see the Howling Commandos in the show at all because we didn't open with them, and originally I thought that with the stuff that we got in the flashbacks in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that this was supposed to to be like a Howling Commando show. And when they didn't show up in the pilot, I was like, oh well, they're doing kind of more of a spy thing with it, and it's really good, and I guess I don't care. And now it's just kind of icing on the cake. We get them anyway, and we get I think all the actors came back. Did anybody get recast? I didn't look. I didn't check. I mean, I know Dum Dum's the same guy, but I don't know if anybody else got recast.
Not that I noticed.
Okay, all right.
But I'm not sure.
Well then it didn't jump out at anybody. It didn't leap out at anybody.
The guy who is Triplet's grandfather looked a little different.
Okay, well, I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. I didn't check IMDb.
But anyway, I'm with Dan. One of my favorite things about this episode was that we got to go to Russia, and I feel like, because, we keep, one of the big things that Dan and I said right out the gate with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that we really liked about it was that it actually, was an international show, and they went places, and that they weren't just, in one city all the time, even though it was supposed to be a spy show, and that was one of the things that they actually got right with the whole spy thing. And then this show, ironically, has felt much more like a real espionage thriller, and has been in one city so far. And so then we get to go, we get to leave, and we go to Russia, and I think that the way they've been shooting the show all the way through has been really consistent with how they shot Captain America First Avenger, and the way they're doing their filters, and the way that they're making that period look, and making it authentic, but also making it feel like we're looking at it with a little bit of a contemporary lens looking back. It's a little bit of like a nostalgia filter, and I like that we're still doing that. I thought Russia was the same way. It looks like the Russia from Winter Soldier from First Avenger, and the way it was shot. And I kept thinking about the Bucky falling off the train thing, like the whole time we were there. So like atmospherically and visually, I really dug this. But all the banter with the Howling Commandos is really super fun, and I thought that once again they were written really consistently from what they were before. I like that Agent Carter is starting to get a little bit more credibility with the SSR, especially because we can kind of guess sort of where things are going to end at the end of this miniseries, and when we get there, she's gonna have to have built up, we're gonna have to believe that she's built up enough credibility to help found S.H.I.E.L.D. So this needed to happen about this point, and I'm glad that we're there already. I like how Howard Stark is still kind of felt here, even though we don't see him. His presence is kind of still there, and it helps a lot that we got to deal with him last episode, but they're not overusing that. And we got a really cool one scene appearance with John Glover, of all people. That was really exciting for me. I love John Glover, and he's still doing his creepy Lionel Luthor, I'm telling you just as much as I want to tell you thing, and I really enjoyed him in that role. I don't think we'll ever see him again, but that was really cool. So anyway, I didn't have a worst moment. My best moment was the Commandos banter, and specifically the Yeti versus Abominable Snowman gag, which just kept going, and I thought that was really, really great. Did anybody have a favorite quote?
I do. I like that exchange between Duncan and Peggy, where he during the firefight he says, "What would Cap say if I left his best girl?" And she said, "He would say, do as Peggy says." I like that exchange.
I think that's great, because that's not what he would say at all.
I just love how British Agent Carter is. She's calling people bloody wankers and things like that. That made me chuckle when she said that. And
that was a nice
I wanted to bring up when you were talking about your favorite line. I thought that was a comic book reference to the villain, the Wendigo, who looks like a Abominable Snowman Yeti kind of guy.
Oh, maybe so. I didn't even think of that. That's cool.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that that's what they were going for. He fights Wolverine in the X-Men all the time, so I don't know how the rights work with that, but...
We seem to have lost Manos. Hopefully he'll be back here in a second. Steve, did you have a favorite line?
No, I did not. It's the same with every episode where every line is just good, so you might as well just write down the whole script at that point.
I liked Peggy's "Everybody Freezes Sometimes" speech. I liked the poignancy of that with the war stuff. I like that we're not just bringing in the Howling Commandos and making it a comedy episode, that we're actually talking about what war does to people and how difficult it is. And again, still feels so much like a real sequel to Captain America without Captain America in it, in dealing with that stuff. I also liked Carter telling Dugan to stop yahooing. I don't know. That was kind of fun. Let's go ahead and do trivia questions real quick. We'll give you a trivia question, and then at the end of the program, we will go ahead and answer it for you. Hopefully Manos will be back here with us here in a minute. I'll try to get him back. Steve, do you have a trivia question for us today, sir?
Yeah. So in the comics, what are the male equivalents to the Black Widows in the Red Room called?
I didn't know that there were such a thing.
Yeah, they have 3 separate divisions. One of them is all female, one of them is all male, and one of them is mixed.
I gotta ask you guys a question, because this is material that I'm not real familiar with. The whole sleeping with the handcuffs thing, is that comic book, or did they add that?
I've never seen that in the comics.
I haven't read a ton of Black Widow comics, to be honest, so I don't really know.
I like that a lot. When at the end, when Dottie, full-grown Dottie, does it to herself before she goes to sleep, that was chilling.
Yeah, it was.
Just that like she would be conditioned like that, and that she's that loyal to brainwashed, and wow, good stuff. Really good but creepy stuff. Dan, did you have a trivia question?
Mine was, which comic book did the Wendigo first appear in?
Okay, then. And my question is, so there are several animals that are thrown out as passwords for the 107th Regiment, but then we finally find out what the real password is. What is the animal that is the real password for the 107th Regiment? We'll go ahead and talk a little bit more about the episode now while we're waiting for Manos to get back, and hopefully he comes back. Any nitty-gritty stuff you guys want to get into and tackle? Any specific scenes that you'd like to get into and discuss?
There was one moment that I don't think we mentioned where, in the very opening, wherein Peggy's talking to Dottie, there was a line I really didn't like when she says that you sound like Captain America. I thought that was really forced and seemed to come out of absolute nowhere.
Do you remember what her line was before that was said? Because I remember that too, but it didn't bother me.
She was talking about the fact that she should go to Brooklyn first because it's better to get to know the people before you see the sights of New York.
Oh, is that all it was?
And then Dottie's like, you sound like Captain America, and I don't think that makes a lot of sense, even though Steve's from Brooklyn.
I thought he was referring to a different line. Now I wish I'd written that down because it's been a few days and I don't remember. Okay. Well, that didn't bother me in the moment, but I can't argue with you because I don't remember the whole context.
Well, I've only seen the episode once, too, so I'm not sure. But just the first time, it really took me out like that. That feels really obvious, considering what we did last episode.
If we're throwing out criticisms, I've got a minor one. I feel like there have been episodes where, especially like maybe second or third, I forget, where I felt like the sexism thing is maybe a little bit more in our face than it has to be. Where I'm at with it right now is I just wish we would stop talking about it in exactly the same terms all the time. Just like show people not taking her seriously rather than constantly having to talk about it in the exact same terms. And it seems like we keep opening episodes with it, and it feels like, and I don't know if this is on purpose, like it's almost just for in case a new person comes in and is watching the show and needs to know what the status quo is, and it's like, just so everybody knows, these men don't take her seriously, and we just keep every episode saying she gets coffee. We don't take her seriously, and I'm kind of okay. I get it. You know what I mean? Like just have them treat her that way. We don't have to keep talking about it in exactly the same terms.
Yeah, I agree. Although I think that's a little bit less problematic in this episode, mostly because by the end of it, we don't have some kind of moment where they talk about sexism. It's just the actions speak for themselves, and I think that's the best way to handle it.
And, I mean, at the same time, I'm glad that she continues to just kind of, show everybody how good she is at stuff without it having to be like, women are better at things kind of message. Like, I don't think it is that. I think it's just she's very skilled, and if they would, pick up on it, they could utilize that, and then they kind of start to utilize that. And then naturally, of course, because it's good drama, and I think it's built up well, when you get to the end, they're finally starting to take her seriously, and the other shoe's about to drop. And that's handled really well. Steve and I are watching other shows where that sort of thing is attempted and feels really contrived, and here it's handled really well.
Arrow.
Yeah, I didn't want to say any names, Steve. I didn't want to.
That episode, this week's episode, I'm just so mad that I feel like I need to slam it every time we do a show this week.
Well, that's not very nice. Trying to get Manos back in here. Dan, did you have any scenes you want to talk about?
I really liked all the stuff about Dum Dum Dugan and his preferences of alcohol. I thought that was pretty fun, how he was like talking about how the Germans are really good at beer, but Americans make the best bourbon, and then at the end, the Russian scientist they save takes a swig of the bourbon, and he's like, "This is awful. Do you have any vodka?"
Yeah, but then he immediately goes, "Can I have the rest?"
Yeah. I thought that was really funny because, supposedly the saying in Russia is whenever a bottle of vodka gets opened, the cap never goes back on because they just finish it while it's open, initially. So I thought that was very fitting. I mean, it's stereotypical, but I guess it's true.
Yeah, but it's fun. Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of the whole Scotty in Star Trek's got to constantly drink scotch thing. Manos, welcome back. Did you have any specific scenes that you wanted to talk about that we may or may not have talked about?
Oh, okay. Well, forgive me. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right.
Lost connection. Well, outside of the scene with baby Natasha, I do like the alcohol scene, actually. I mean, I love how we cut back to Dum Dum, and he looks like he just lost someone very dear and important to him.
Yeah.
I thought that was so funny the way that was treated.
He's like, bye, bourbon. After he gives it to the guy, like, all remorseful and stuff.
The only thing missing was a single tear coming from his eye.
One man tear.
I don't imagine that we will keep doing more stuff with them in this miniseries. I kind of think that this was their episode, and that's good. I mean, we don't have to do more with them because I'm satisfied. It was fun to get to see him again, and once again, I keep saying that like every episode, or not every episode, but like every Marvel movie, with the exception of probably Guardians, is somehow enhanced or we have more background for and watches differently. And now even Winter Soldier will watch even more differently than it has before because we've got the Commandos in this, and Winter Soldier or First Avenger also. But I just think that's really cool. Like this show feels. I keep saying this, but it doesn't feel superfluous. It really feels like I'm glad we've got it, and I think there's going to be a lot of people just going to the movies that will have skipped this because they didn't like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and they're missing out. They're missing out on something that's really informative.
I agree.
Yeah, I really think.
Wait, go ahead.
You go.
I was just going to say, I hope that they continue the trend of whenever S.H.I.E.L.D. is on break doing miniseries like this, because I mean. I'd love to see another Carter one, but if they ever got around to it, I'd love to see a series about the Howling Commandos in post-war Europe and adventures. Like they said, they try to keep the peace and they're trying to put everything back together after Europe's been war-torn and ravaged by World War II. I'd love to see a show about that. That'd be awesome.
You're right. There is a war show there. Now, the question with something like that, of course, would be how do we make it comic book enough? Because what's been really helping this show is you've got the Stark tech, and they can do kind of the futuristic but in the 40s sci-fi stuff, and I kind of figured that will be probably one of the big requirements for more shows like this, like little extra things will be, well, it's got to be comic book enough.
My guess is if they continue to do mini shows like this, it might not be a bad idea to explore some of the other film franchises, like maybe Lady Sith and the Warriors 3,
That's
for
a great
instance.
point. Yeah, that's great.
I would love that.
That's great.
See,
Awesome.
for instance, yeah.
Yeah, you just tickled Dan's happy bone, yeah.
Every movie that seems to come out, one of the big complaints is always, there wasn't totally enough of blah, blah, blah. They should have used more. A miniseries every so often would be actually a good way to explore that.
Well, and we've got so many cool places we can spin stuff off, because that wouldn't just be a spin-off of the Thor movies. We got a great Sif episode, in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and it gave her like 1,000 times more character dimension than those movies did. So, give her a show!
Like Balder the Brave and stuff like that in that series, that would be awesome. I'd love to see that.
And if you're worried about money, although this series has great production values, and obviously you've got to build sets and things and make it look like the 40s, so I'm not sure how hard it would be to do a little bit of Asgard, but why don't you just take the Warriors 3, stick them on Earth for 8 episodes, make it to where they can't get back on the Rainbow Bridge, and you're done. I mean, like, I'd watch that. I'd watch that. Dan, some of our favorite comedy stuff in Simonson's run was when they were on Earth just going around trying to figure out what you're supposed to do on Earth, being tourists and wearing goofy sweaters and stuff.
Yeah, Volstagg is the best. A show that primarily focuses on him as a main character would be awesome. And it would give Ray Stevenson regular work. He's an actor I like a lot.
Yeah, and that sounds horrible, but I mean, like, Ray Stevenson is a good actor, and he doesn't get enough to do.
He's a great actor.
No, what you do is you take Volstagg, and you give him, like, a job at a Dairy Queen, and then...
In JMS's run, he goes into diners all the time, and that's always fun.
You would watch the show that's Volstagg and a Dairy Queen. Anyway, I want to talk predictions for a minute. Tell me if I'm way off base here, but with the name drop we got in the first episode, I don't see how Vanko is not somehow involved with Leviathan.
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course, yeah, especially since it's a Russian thing.
Who else? A, it's a Russian thing. B, it's somebody that wants revenge on Stark. I mean, somebody set him up, and there's been no discussion about Vanko since the first episode. There's a part of me that kind of wishes that we never got the name drop, because it would be a bigger reveal, because if we hadn't had that mention early on, I might not have thought about it yet, just because, maybe I didn't have Iron Man 2 in my brain.
Well, also keep in mind that, maybe not everyone has seen Iron Man 2 or remembers that part of it, so that might be asking a lot for viewers, especially casual viewers. So at least having him make an appearance of looking totally innocent and, helpful, for instance, might not be a bad idea.
No, but my rebuttal for that, Manos, is I'm not sure that was significant enough, or that would have come off as significant enough that anybody watching just this show, not even thinking about Iron Man 2, would remember it. You know what I mean? Like, it's still, if it happens, it's still going to come off like a giant reveal. Because I think the only reason I caught it was because I remembered Ivan Vanko's name. So, I mean, like, I'm only even talking about the Vanko thing because I watched that movie, remembered it, and it was mentioned in that first episode. Like, a casual viewer is not going to remember that.
I actually agree with you on your prediction, actually. I do think Vanko is heavily involved with this, and will be the explanation, like, why, he got in so much trouble, actually. Who would have guessed that this show would be almost an important prequel to Iron Man 2 of all things?
Yeah.
But,
It's really cool, and once again, it enhances that. If you go back and watch Iron Man 2 and you start, you get that intro where they're talking about him stealing, Tony Stark's ideas and stuff, or I'm sorry, strike that, reverse it. Tony Stark allegedly stealing his. Then you're like, oh yeah, that's the show. We already saw it. That's really cool. If that's what it is, Dan or Steve, do you think there's any other possible explanation? Is it possible that is a red herring for those of us that know who and what Vanko is?
I think Vanko's probably going to be involved in some capacity. I don't see how you miss that opportunity, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. I feel like it's almost the most predictable and obvious, but also the most natural thing to do with it.
Yeah, I hope that's what it is. That's really cool.
Yeah, I agree with the idea that it could be a red herring, which would be clever, but it's not done in he's not introduced in such an obvious way that it's suggesting he's a bad guy. That would be my only thing that made me think it's not a red herring.
It's not like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. issue where it's the reverse, where the origin of Skye is so obvious that it's almost bad at this point, and this it's so obvious that it's perfect and you wouldn't want to do anything else.
Here's the big question I gotta ask you guys, because it's been a while since I've dealt with Iron Man 2. Where was Vanko's father when he dies at the beginning? Was he in
Russia? He was in Russia.
Was it not a Russian prison? Or
it wasn't a prison.
Was it not
was
a prison?
Just his home in Russia.
Oh, okay. Because if he is involved in setting up Stark and all of that, it seems like it's going to have to be something that is somehow swept under the rug and nobody knows about it. Because otherwise, it seems like that would have come up in Iron Man 2, right? Like that his father...
It could be a Hydra thing, too, because they mentioned in Winter Soldier shortly after the event, those flashbacks in Iron Man 2, that Howard Stark and his wife died in a car crash. So maybe it's like a Hydra cover-up thing to keep him alive.
Oh, yeah. I you know what? I bet you're onto something there. I forgot all about that. Cool. All right, well, we'll keep talking about predictions on this when we get more information next week. Let's go ahead and finish off the show with the answers to our trivia questions. And Manos, we already did the trivia questions. Did you have one?
I did not.
Okay, cool. Well, then, no harm done. Let's move on, then. Steve, what was the answer to your trivia question, sir?
The male equivalents to the Black Widows are called wolf spiders.
Okay, I knew it was going to be a spider something, rather.
Yeah, they're called the Wolf Spider Ops, and there's a couple of significant characters in there, but they don't make a lot of appearances in the comics.
That's really cool. Dan, what is yours, sir?
The answer to mine was the Incredible Hulk. He was originally a Hulk villain, so I suppose we could see him in some capacity if we ever go back to Russia in this time period. That'd be really cool.
Yeah. That's cool that you caught that. Good on you, Dan. I'd never heard of that before. The answer to my trivia question, the real passport for the 107th Regiment was Eagle. Of course, right? Because it's Captain America. It's patriotic. It's very American, of course. anyway, everybody, thanks a lot for watching, and those of you that are watching the Agent Carter video separate from the whole thing, this is weirder live, or not live. This is a lot weirder not live. Anyway, so now we're going to say goodbye, and then for some of you, we're going to just keep talking. But anyway, so we really like this episode, and we will come back with you again next week with another episode that I am going to be very surprised if we don't also really, really like, because this thing has just been super solid all the way through, and I should have said this earlier, but real quick, I will also say that this is a show that is really smart, that they gave it just the 8 episodes, and that they're not trying to drag it along and string it along forever, because it's really tightly plotted, and it's really, really nice to get to see that for something like this, especially contrasted to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So anyway, that's the thing I'm really super excited about with it right now. Anyway, thanks for watching, folks, and we will see you again next week. I'm Captain Logan, and this was Dan Torrey.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Steve Baxi.
See you, everybody.
And the real Manos.
Goodbye, everyone.
Okay, but for those of you that are watching Primetime Crisis Not Quite Live, we're going to continue on right away. Manos, thanks for being here with us for Agent Carter.
No problem. It's always great. I'm always excited to talk about the show. Sorry I got bumped off for the few minutes there. But yeah, anytime you want to talk about Agent Carter or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I'm here, man.
Manos likes agent things.
That's right. Or if you want to add Bob's Burgers to the discussion list, I'll be happy to do that too.
Or Steven Universe.
Or Steven Universe, I would be there. Like white on rice.
We'll call, if we ever did that, we would call that show Steve Baxi's Universe. That's
awesome. By the way, it's been funny talking to Steve occasionally about it. It's like, hey, that's your name too, isn't it? I don't know.
Steve's like, yeah, right. It is, Manos.
Yes, take care, guys.
All right, bye, Manos. Thanks, man. All right. Well, we're going to move on now to Flash, guys. And unless anyone has an amusing anecdote you'd like to share before we move on, some kind of extra in-between content? No? Okay.
I bought 3 books that I don't intend to read.
Well, why did you buy them then?
Because I will read them eventually, just nowhere in the near future.
Are they like new things that you're going to read later?
I'll show you, actually.
Oh, okay. Are they comics?
There is a used bookstore here that sold all of these for $5.
Oh, cool.
They're
that's
3 Timothy Zahn Star Wars novels, and they're not the Thrawn trilogy, but they're equally good. So I don't have time to read them, but I will read them eventually.
Oh, when you said you don't intend to, I thought you were just like, I'm building a collection, but this stuff is crap, and I just don't even...
No, I mean, I don't intend to, as in, if I read them, it's going to be years from now, because I don't have time.
Yeah, I've done that a lot myself. Recently, I find, and people are gonna think I'm crazy and be like, how did you not have, I shouldn't even admit this, but somehow or rather, I was remiss and did not have a copy of The Long Halloween in my collection, Steve.
Oh.
And of course, I've read it a couple times, but I just didn't happen to have it, and I found a copy, a good-looking softcover for $10. So
nice.
I went ahead and bought that up. Finally, but I've been picking up a lot of cool stuff lately. There will be.
We should review Long Halloween at some point. That's one of the best Batman stories
That needs
ever.
to happen finally. We gotta wait until it's on an actual Halloween.
Yes, and then Noel on Christmas.
Although something I have considered doing is reviewing Long Halloween 1 issue per month for a year.
That would be fantastic.
In fact, if we could even be really, really ridiculous about it, Steve, and review the whole thing at once together, issue for issue, and then just put it out once a month.
I'd be down for that. And then we do the exact same thing with Dark Victory.
Dark Victory. See, I wouldn't want to do that with Dark Victory because it's not as good, and
it's not. It's just Long Halloween all over again.
Yeah. Well, the problem with Dark Victory is I buy that somebody might be clever enough to stump Batman for a whole year one time. I don't buy it a second time. Batman starts to look really incompetent if it takes him a whole year 2 times to solve a case.
And it sucks because that book put Batman Year 2 out of canon, and Year 2 is really good.
I've never read that.
It's the story that was the basis for Mask of the Phantasm to some extent.
Oh, cool! I didn't know there was any kind of adaptation going on there. Interesting.
Yeah, there was a Reaper character in the comics that was essentially just vigilante Batman, or not vigilante, but lethal Batman who goes around and kills mobsters. And apparently he run Gotham for years and then gave up, and then Batman showed up.
Ooh, I've got to.
Now Batman's killing his reputation.
We've got to review that. That sounds amazing.
If I find extra copies, I will send those to you. It's really good.
Okay, or at some point we'll do it. Yeah, that sounds exciting. This is
There's
the reason.
Also year 3 that foreshadows that leads right into what's it called? Lonely Place of Dying.
Really, and we've reviewed that together.
Yeah, the final issue of year 3 is actually the very first appearance of Tim Drake.
Lonely Place of Dying is wonderful.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite stories.
This is the reason that I started bringing Steve on the channel. It turns out he's really versatile. He can talk about all kinds of other things, but every time we talk Batman, I feel like I'm in a workshop about Batman. You know, like every time we talk, it's like I should be taking more notes because Steve is the professor and I'm the pupil, but I'm the one with the Batman-themed basement. Anyway, let's go ahead and move right along. I'm not worthy. I'm sorry, Batman. I'm sorry, I'm not. Now, we're going to go ahead and move on to Flash. In this week's episode of Flash, it's episode 12, It's Crazy for You. We will go ahead and introduce ourselves again for the separate video. This is... Are you making faces at me, like, behind my back? Because on camera, that's hilarious. Was that, Dan? Was that not happening? Okay.
I was going like this. I was running.
Oh! I thought like I was turning around and you were, like, mocking me or something? I thought you were like, rah, 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 rah. And I was like, on camera, that's hilarious. Rah, rah. Anyway, all right, so this is very strange, but we're going to introduce ourselves again because we're going to pull this out for folks that like to watch this separately. Everybody understand what we're doing? Okay, because I'm not going to explain it anymore. We're just going to do it, and then you can think we're weird, but that's what we're doing. Here we go. Hello everyone! Welcome once again to Flash Discussions. I am Captain Logan, and with me today are, as always, my two co-hosts. It's Dan Torrey.
Hey guys.
And beware the Steve Baxi.
Hello everybody.
All right, today we are talking about the 12th episode of The Flash, Crazy for You. And before we get started, because we were not able to go live this week, there are a couple of questions about this show in particular that were sent to me over email that I want to go ahead and talk about before we get into the episode. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. The first one is from Useless on YouTube, and he writes, how do... Well, no, it's actually clever because his last name is like use something, and it's a E, so it's useless with an E. But anyway, yeah, but you're right. It still sounds a little bit self-deprecating. So anyway, Useless on YouTube writes, but he's not useless today because he's contributing to the show. How do the people held in the prisons on both this and Arrow eat? Or go to the bathroom. There seems to be no staff, and they have never showed it. And then he says, thanks. You're welcome. So this is a question that I keep asking, and it's kind of driving me crazy, and apparently we're just not supposed to ask questions because it's a comic booky show. Does it bother you guys? Can we kind of look past it? Is this a world where we can have that kind of logic where we're not supposed to think about it? I say no. What do you say?
If you actually think about the things that they're doing to the supervillains in this show, it's really morally reprehensible.
It is!
Just locking people out without any sort of due process while they pretend to run around and like defend justice and stuff like that. It's really funny.
Yeah, it doesn't
bother me the whole series.
It doesn't make any sense. You look at what Barry apparently stands for. He's got a really crazy double standard.
Yeah, agreed. It's really annoying, especially when you get stuff like reoccurring villains, like today with Pied Piper, that DC's Colossus a few episodes ago, where they break out of prison and they're wearing the exact same outfits and everything. And you have to wonder, are they just going to be in there for months, just being tortured with no food, no bathroom, not even a change of clothes?
Yeah, you can kind of get away with it when it's a supervillain that's in some other sort of form, like if they're just like perpetually gaseous or something. And we've seen that in things. But in this, a lot of the time they're just like a regular person and they have superpowers. But they're not. But they're usually in normal human form. I don't know, man. I feel like this is very hypocritical on Flash's part.
Yeah, it works better for Ollie because he has no morals at this point.
Yeah, and early on when I thought that these shows were a little more sophisticated than they are, and we were actually talking more about all the cool thematic and story stuff they were doing, and now it's kind of degenerated more into just that was okay, but here's the stuff that didn't work. Back then, I was talking a lot about, and Dan was just nodding and smiling because he hasn't watched as much Arrow. I was talking a lot about the, just like that, actually. I was talking a lot about the really interesting kind of comparison contrast stuff between these two shows, and where you could see that, and a lot of it I think was intentional, where clearly you could see, here is Flash's worldview versus Arrow's worldview, and they would like intentionally mirror stuff that the early episodes of Arrow did, and then it was like the total flip of it, and you can see like really cool differences between Lance and Joe, and that kind of stuff, and I love all that stuff. But then you get here, they're just doing exactly the same thing, and Flash should look at that prison that Arrow's got to land you and just be like, oh my God, you're a horrible person. But no, I guess here it's better just because it's not underground on an island, and that they actually have like light and stuff. But
they're at least above ground.
All you have to do is show. Look, all I need is to see like Caitlin bringing him food or something, and then we can like maybe if we saw like one hint of actually being humane, then we might be able to assume the rest of it. But there's not been even a hint.
Well, they had the perfect opportunity this episode because Cisco went and visited Pied Piper and tried to interrogate him about Firestorm.
He could have brought him a yogurt cup or something, but no.
Yeah. Bread and water, at least. I mean, that's what they feed people at prisons, stereotypically, so why not?
Anyway, okay, so that's the answer to your question, and Eric Wright says, hi, Captain Logan. It's a shame that there's no live discussion, and it was going to be my first live discussion. Anyway, I did have a question I wanted to ask from last Arrow discussions about why they can't call Flash for help, and I was wondering if you think they should put the shows together, and I put this question here instead of on Arrow because I wanted to hear Dan's response to it too. Do you think they should put the shows together and make one show about both heroes working together and what's different, and maybe end the season they don't see eye to eye, and would you make the next season Flash versus Arrow? What do you think? Well, first of all, I don't think we would want an entire season with two superheroes fighting each other just to shake hands at the end. But what do you guys think? Could you see that? It'll never happen because both of these shows are popular, and I could see like maybe a season where both of them crossed a whole lot. I could see that.
The problem with the Flash is he's just a problem in general in like everything that he's in, because if you take his powers to their logical extent, if you like think about the things he can actually do with his powers, you don't need anyone else.
Yeah.
Crime will just cease to happen. So like him being in the Justice League is completely redundant because it's like, oh, Superman, why are you here? We don't even need you. The Flash can just take care of everything. So I mean, if you like call the Flash in to solve Oliver Queen's problems, he wouldn't have anything to sit around and brood about, so you wouldn't have a show.
Yeah, and if you brought Arrow over to Flash, he'd just sit around being bored because this guy has all these superpowers, and you saw, and I'm not saying,
I don't think it's a very good idea.
Yeah, and I'm not saying
I think they'd write themselves into a corner, and it would be really contrived to see the flip. Like we've already complained about how it's sort of contrived how Barry gets beat by these people, the supervillains in the show already. He'll get beat up by them, and it's like, why are you playing with the kid gloves on, Barry? You could easily end this fight in about 3 seconds. But whatever.
I mean, I'm not saying that you couldn't do a really good crossover between them and that you shouldn't. And of course, the three of us really did not like the crossover that they did, and they came up with really lame excuses to get them together when they actually got them together. So if they were together all the time, I don't know. But anyway. Steve, did you have anything to add?
No, I think Dan hit the nail on the head with that.
That was
if nothing else, bring Barry over to just beat up Ra's al Ghul, and then stop making Arrow, because it's so bad right now.
Okay.
It's so bad.
Steve, how do you really feel? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and now just put 15 minutes on the clock, because I don't think this was as complex an episode. There's not as much to talk about, and we've already talked for a few minutes. Anyway, so 15 minutes on the clock. Dan, today's episode, how'd you feel about it? Best moment, worst moment? Go!
I thought this one was cool. It was... the villain was somewhat interesting. I liked the powers. It reminded me of Nightcrawler from X-Men. And I forgot to look up if this was a comic book character that I'd read in anything before the show started.
She's a Jeff Johns
on-
creation. Her name is Peekaboo.
Peekaboo. Okay, yeah, I've probably read her before in Jeff Johns' Flash run because I read his run with Wally. I didn't read all the stuff he did with Barry after they brought him back because Barry was boring in the comics. But yeah, her powers are somewhat interesting. I thought all the stuff with her boyfriend is really typical. Like, I saw that coming from the initial conversations they had where she was like, "You would save me too, right?" And he's just like, I got stuff to do. And I was like, well, he's going to abandon her by the end of this episode. And it totally happened. But I did like Linda Park's introduction. She is Wally West's wife in the comics, so she's a character I like a lot. She's more of a spunky Mary Jane type character in the comics, and she was kind of like that in here. She's very confident. I like that about her. Not that Iris isn't confident, but Linda Park's much more come to her than Iris does. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because Iris is just somewhat irritating in some of the scenes she shows up in, and it's kind of superficial. But I like Linda Park's characterization. At least we'll get it. It's not like we got anything deep characterization with her here, so I could easily make her irritating moving forward. But as she was introduced here, she was.
We're losing Dan.
Even Skype isn't safe.
Yeah, nothing is safe. Dan, are you still with us?
Hello? Yeah, can you hear me? Did I break up?
You were cutting out on us, yeah.
Okay, I was...
You're still kind
the
of...
thing with Caitlin Snow, with her walking in with the... Okay, so... Can you hear me now?
A little bit. Why don't we drop you out and have you come right back in?
Okay.
All right, give us just 1 second. We'll try to get Dan back. Oh man, nothing is safe, Steve.
No, nothing. The internet is just an evil
Hello?
place.
Yeah, it is. Hi, Dan.
Hey.
Hey.
Am I still breaking up?
Well, we don't see you yet, but we can hear you. Now we can't hear or see you.
Unless he's just being really quiet.
Yeah.
This is
I
weird.
don't think he is. Yeah, he looked like a spinning wheel for a second.
Can I be heard?
Yeah, I think there's some.
And can be seen.
I think there's some lag again. But Dan, go ahead and say the rest of what you were saying, and then we'll move on to Steve.
I was just saying it was kind of funny to see Caitlin Snow let loose a little bit. I thought the actress who plays her was a little over the top in how drunk she was acting, but it was rather amusing. And the thing that they did with her, the girl that's sort of uptight, walking in a really beautiful dress reminded me a lot of what they did with Felicity. And they're obviously trying to set up some kind of romantic tension between the two of them, which has the potential to set up yet another love triangle within this set of characters. Like, now we have Barry, who likes Iris, who also likes Linda, and Caitlin Snow likes Barry, and maybe Cisco likes Caitlin, and Firestorm is the former spouse of Caitlin, who she still has feelings for. It's really melodramatic.
We need a flowchart, Dan. We need a flowchart, bad.
Yeah, and I hope. I mean, I know that since this is a CW show about romance and beautiful people, then that they're going to deal with all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I hope they don't do it in an irritating way. Like, this episode didn't really bother me all that much, other than, the way that Flash beat the villain was really stupid. Just knock out all the lights in a tunnel and she can't see where she's going. You can see a space in the darkness. She can still go there.
Not only could you see a space in the darkness, but you had headlights.
Yeah, it reminds me of that Fantastic Four cartoon where Reed Richards makes a wooden gun and Magneto is defeated because he can't control it. He's like, oh my god! It was that little name.
I think they broke out
Jordan Allen Scott trapped in a yellow forest.
I think they broke out
and
the
like in that
headlights.
Justice League
Maybe
movie
it was
they
just
made
the
where
tail.
Batman's
I don't know.
contingency plan was to make Hal Jordan cry in a cave, and it worked.
Yeah.
It was that levels of lame. So that like those are my big criticisms. Like the show could go on a place where I might not enjoy it moving forward. Caitlin was a little over the top, and the villain was rather lame. But I don't know. I had fun with this one. I was just happy to see Linda Park, to be honest. I like her a lot.
Okay, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo Dan. I got a lot of messages on Twitter and on YouTube, people saying that I can't wait to see what you think of this episode because we thought it was garbage. And I'm like, I don't know. I thought it was okay. I don't think it was offensively bad or anything. It was just kind of filler. The big thing for me here was Barry's dad knows he's the Flash. And I love the way they handled that. That was my absolute favorite part of this episode. Going off from last week to where Joe was talking to Barry and Barry's telling him he doesn't have to compete with Barry's idols, and now moving forward to having Barry's real dad realize he's the Flash and be understanding of it and not overcomplicated, not make it over dramatic, almost like a Commissioner Gordon wink nudge kind of relationship. I really like that. That was my favorite part. The villain was what was really hard to get through the episode for. She's rip-off Bonnie Clyde Nightcrawler, and she's a really bad actress. I didn't enjoy her at all. Her powers were interesting enough, but they didn't use them creatively, and Barry could have beat her 10 times over, but we were just prolonging the episode. So that wasn't great. It's a harmless episode. I like the chemistry between Caitlin and Barry. I think that's fine. But as you guys mentioned, it's almost soap opera level of love triangles now. And I know they're going to take it to an absurd degree because it's the CW. And I don't want them to because there's some genuinely nice natural stuff going on here.
Yeah, I'm with you, Steve, on the love triangle stuff, and I guess I'll start there. I hate watching an episode like this on a show on this network where I am almost lulled into really liking a relationship, but then I can see the future a little bit, you know? And I feel like Wells right now, where I'm like, I know the future.
Yeah, you're like Barry from the last episode. You can predict the future.
Yeah, and what's irritating about it for me, I really enjoyed all the stuff with Caitlin at the beginning. First of all, let me mention that suddenly I like this character in a way that I never did before, and I liked that she is surprisingly reasonable about the whole Cisco lock-in Firestorm, or not Firestorm, but the guy who will become Firestorm in the chamber, and he finally gets that off his chest, and I thought they might play it for easy drama, and then they didn't, and that was my favorite moment in the episode. I thought it was really great the way she handled that, and it was surprisingly fair and reasonable about that. But the problem is almost the same thing that I have with Barry and Felicity. The chemistry between them is really good, and Barry doesn't jump at the chance to date her, and I don't know why. It's for no good reason at all, except just to prolong relationship stuff. And if you've got to have episodes like this that are so focused on relationship stuff, in the middle of, like really potentially scary supervillain stuff, I mean, we still have Reverse Flash out there somewhere. For a while, he was like, I'm going to focus just on that and not on anything else. Now it's been a while, he's not talking about that at all, whatsoever. And so now suddenly we're focused really hard on relationship stuff and putting all that other stuff in the back burner, and it's kind of unbelievable. You get to the end, and Steve, I didn't like the stuff with Barry's dad as much as I wanted to, because I was comparing it too much to the stuff with Iris. When Barry's dad is able to deduce that he's the Flash just because he's a thinking person, and anybody in that situation would be able to figure that out. But then Iris, well, yeah, I mean, and it was well handled, but it looks more like a coin flip. Okay, heads, he'll go ahead and know now. When then Flash shows up to Iris just at the time that she's been hoping that she can get some story for him so she can keep her new job, and she doesn't even begin to wonder that if this is maybe a little bit too coincidental. Well, we're making her look really stupid. At the same time as Flash's dad looks like a normal, reasonable person, which makes it all feel more arbitrary to me. And I hate that.
The icing on the cake, too, is that Iris gets a picture of the Flash's face and puts it on the front page of the newspaper she works at, and Barry's dad realizes it, but Iris doesn't.
After
he's had
the same
2
thing, it seems
interactions
so
with the
obvious.
Flash.
Also, there is
And Iris
no...
has had how many now?
I know that it's 2015 and the technology is getting a lot better, and we could probably do at least...
There's no way she got that picture.
We could
No
probably
way.
do at least 5. We could probably do at least 5 minutes of a live show from this phone before it broke down. Now that's how far we've gotten, which is great. But there's no way she got that picture.
No way.
Real quick, I have a couple other questions I would like to throw out real quick. Kind of negative stuff. I like this episode overall. Again, mostly just because I really like the Caitlyn stuff. But then I'm like, it's probably not going to go where we might like it to, and it will be because Barry's not being a real person. Ugh. Anyway, but I have a couple other questions. Okay. This is my worst moment. This is the biggest, even over that, this is my worst moment. Why do all the villains get to know Barry's secret identity? If they get put in their little makeshift prison, now it's okay for them to know. We just had a guy break out. And we're like so confident that I guess this is the only reason I can see that we would do it. We're so confident that the villains are never going to break out that it's totally okay for one that did not know before that Barry Allen was the Flash to see his face now.
Yeah, and they did that with DC's Colossus, and they killed him off conveniently so that no one would know. But now it's just like all bets are off.
Yeah. Why did we do that? And we don't even have the excuse with Peekaboo of accidentally go someplace that she doesn't know where she's going and like get stuck in a wall or anything, because her powers are apparently a lot safer than Nightcrawler's. Because if it's dark, she just can't teleport at all. I was like, wow, that is. Nightcrawler would be so jealous of this girl, right? Because if he can't see where he's going, he has the temptation to try anyway. She can't even try. Wow. Oh, okay.
Imagine if that girl like had an accident, like she was and she was blinded, like Matt Murdock. She would just be a normal person. Her powers would cease to exist.
Here's another question: When Hartley gets out and runs off, why is catching the teleporter a bigger priority than catching him? Right? Like, she's just stealing stuff. Why? Like, he's a lot more dangerous, I think. Like, why are we more concerned about
definitely.
that? And I think the way...
She's a petty criminal with a crush on a guy that's a jerk face.
You can make the argument that it's because Flash, with his powers, is probably the only person that could catch this teleporter, but he's probably also the only person that could deal with Hartley very effectively. I don't understand... Just because he's so brilliant, I don't understand why it... And the answer, of course, is just, well, this is the episode where he catches a teleporter, right? Like, that's... yeah, that really bugged me. Also, this is minor, but can we all agree that watching people throw up on screen is never pleasant? And that it shouldn't be done unless the realism of the moment is really important to the narrative somehow? I don't want to see that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, rather than just using it as a
That didn't
joke.
really bother me.
Okay. I don't like that. It bothers me.
My favorite thing in this episode by far is Gorilla Grodd.
Yeah, of course it is.
Seeing him,
Of course.
by far, because Gorilla Grodd's the man.
We have
And I
come
love
a
him.
long way with TV CG, but I don't know if they're going to be able to keep contriving ways to put him in the dark, because that CG is going to always look better in the dark.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's
I mean, maybe he'll show up every time the teleporter shows up, and that's how she'll get beat, and Grodd will like be there somehow. But I really hope they make Grodd talk eventually. He didn't seem like he was capable of speech when we saw him, but
Well, he was
hopefully
writing his own name, so I think
That's
it's
true.
potentially possible.
I hope it's like Planet of the Apes, or like current franchise Planet of the Apes, where he can talk a little bit, but like maybe gradually he gets better at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Gorilla Grodd's always been sort of a lot. The character has always sort of been about a lot of the ideas that those movies put forth, which which is what I always liked about him. So I hope they do some of that stuff for sure. That would be really cool.
Well, that's why now is the right time for it. Yeah, I mean we're right in the middle of Planet of the Apes movies. I think that would be really cool. Did you guys have a favorite quote?
Nope.
Okay.
Not particularly. I mean, them singing was kind of hilarious. I noticed that they contrived some sort of reason for Barry to sing because Grant Gustin has been in Glee before and he has like a singing voice, so I figured that's why they put that in there. And Caitlin Snow, she was drunk, but she was not nearly as good as Barry at singing at all.
She used to sing on Disney Channel, so that explains that.
I have been to a lot of karaoke places, and that is one of the most standard and cliche songs that get picked for duets. And as soon as they did that, I was just like, really? That's the most like everybody picks that. And I mean I guess it's, well, they've never been to a karaoke place before. So, but what irritated me was that everybody in the audience is turns around and starts watching like, oh boy, we're gonna get a show, and there should have been at least one person that's there all the time that went, this song again. Ah!
See, I was hoping they were gonna sing like "Killing in the Name of" by Rage Against the Machine or something like that. You know, that would have been awesome.
I just want Rage Against the Machine. I just want to see Barry Allen get up there and go, wake up! Today's Wacky Cisco shirt is the evolution of Nintendo. I want that shirt. That was so cool. Lots of video game shirts. Oh, I didn't throw out my quote. My favorite quote was, I don't always dress like a high school principal. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Because she does always dress like a high school principal, and I never really thought of that. I didn't have a trivia question for this one. Just nothing jumped out at me. Dan, Steve, did you guys have trivia questions?
Does.
All right, go ahead, Dan.
In the comic books, Linda Park hosts a show similar to The View called The Scene, and there's other reporters from the DC Universe. And one of them that's rather notable, and I want to know who is one of her other co-hosts on the show.
Cool. Steve.
Okay, so Peekaboo in the comics, when she first gets her powers, she tries to steal something really particular. What does she try to steal?
Okay. We are over time for the show, so do you guys have any other major things we need to mention before we go ahead and just throw out the answers to the trivia questions? We just need to get there right away.
I just need to reiterate how awesome Grodd is, but other than that, I don't have anything else to say.
I was excited about that too, Dan. I thought that was really fun, and I like that we're progressively getting closer and closer to it. I think once it finally happens, it's going to maybe be a bigger deal than if we just did it right away. I mean, because like in the pilot, we already had some hint of it, and then it was quite a few episodes ago now when we got the last hint of it. So that's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, I
Is it
like
too
that
much
a
to
lot,
hope
'cause
for that we won't get Gorilla City?
We've talked about that.
That would be really cool. I'd love to see Gorilla City. I mean, I think it's cool that they are building up to him, like you said, because people forget like Grodd is one of the major Flash villains. Like if you were to compare it, he'd be like the Riddler or Two-Face to a Batman, that kind of thing. Grodd is a big deal for Flash, so it's cool that they're kind of setting him up and building him up like they've done with Cold and Reverse Flash.
Guys, since we do all these in the same night now, I've done it again. My computer swears that we've been talking about Agent Carter. But we haven't. We've been talking about this show. Anyway. All right, well, go ahead and give us the answers to your trivia questions, and then we will bid everybody farewell that is not watching the giantly huge long video. Dan, what is the answer to your question? I'm waiting with bated breath.
The other one of the other co-hosts was Vicky Vale.
Okay.
Cool.
That is cool. Steve?
The answer to mine is a kidney. She tries to steal a kidney for her dad from a hospital.
Oh, okay. That is very specific.
It's also kind of creepy. Because where was she going to put it?
What if she went to the hospital at night? Oh, no!
Well, then if she's in CG, she'd look better than if she was in...
She actually caused an explosion while trying to teleport and killed a surgeon, so there's that.
Wow. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, everybody, thanks a bunch for watching. We're all out of time, as my phone can attest. And anyway, if you're watching this on the separate video, thanks a lot for joining us. We're gonna move on to our next show right now, and of course, these should all be uploaded around the same time. So feel free to jump around and watch other shows. Thanks a lot for watching. We sure appreciate it. We'll be back with you again next week with Flash discussions. Hopefully, we'll be back live at that point. I am Captain Logan, and thanks, Dan and Steve. Appreciate you guys.
No problem.
Thanks for having us.
Bye. All right. right, now we're going to move on to Star Wars. Let me get my Star Wars notes up. And let me right away change the background again. Star Wars. If you're watching...
Get a beautiful Boba Fett face.
Yes.
well, it's Star Wars. And Boba Fett's not in this episode.
Boba Fett should be in every episode. That's why it should be the background.
We could do a giant Grand Moff Tarkin wallpaper. I'm sure it's such a thing.
That would be awesome.
Exactly.
Because he's such a popular character.
he's Star Wars' most popular character.
He is the new Grand Admiral Thrawn as far as continuity goes.
Dan.
I mean, I like Peter Cushing a lot. He's a great actor, and he was good in New Hope. But
yeah,
he's not like my favorite. I mean, I wouldn't cosplay.
It's not interesting.
He's just an old guy in an Imperial uniform, you know.
He's not as interesting, and he's nowhere near as unique as Thrawn. But they're trying to push him as if he's Thrawn.
Yeah.
Dan,
Thrawn is the coolest thing of all time. I love Admiral Thrawn.
Dan,
I do too.
Dan, I just could not help but do the Avi Arad thing. Avi Arad would be like Tarkin is Star Wars' most popular character.
That's going to be one of the Disney spin-offs, Grand Moff Tarkin Origins.
Origins, Star Wars Origins, Grand Moff Tarkin.
I want to see an origin film on the Sarlacc pit, and it will just be 2 hours of you staring into the desert.
Oh, God.
That's awesome.
That thing is so disgusting looking. I can't imagine looking at that thing for 2 hours.
Tales of the Sarlacc.
Can you imagine the trailer for that movie? It'd be like the music they play at the barge where it's like, bum, bum, bum. And then just different shots of the Sarlacc.
I think we should make it a kid show and call it Sarlacc Tales.
Oh, God. It just eats random Star Wars characters.
Yeah, that's it.
Like, here's IG-88 being eaten by the Sarlacc, but he's a droid and it probably wouldn't eat it, but whatever.
Yeah, or it just spits it back out. Yeah, we make it like an interactive show, and like you can text or call in and tell the show what you'd like to see eaten next by the Sarlacc pit. And then it's like...
Jar Jar would be eaten every week. Either him... I'd call in every week and try to get Ahsoka, because she's one of the characters I hate the most in Star Wars, along with Jar Jar. But I mean, I don't really hate Jar Jar. I just can't stand Ahsoka at all. She's real annoying.
But then every now and again, it's just like a taco.
one of the Jedi sitting in the background in the prequels. They'd have a big selection to choose from.
Yeah, or like that one guy that looks a lot like the Gorn.
Yeah, there could be like Plo Koon and Yoli Bindo and Ki-Adi Mundi. All those guys who get eaten by the Sarlacc pit. It'd be great.
Yeah, or like you throw that one robot from that remember that little droid on the tiny feet, Dan, from episode 1. Like you throw that in the Sarlacc pit, and then the Sarlacc pit doesn't know what to do with it, and then you hear somebody go, "Hit the nose!" And then like it spins around, it hits the nose, and then it goes, "Rah!" And then it eats it after it hits the nose.
What if the Sarlacc pit fought the trash monster from A New Hope?
Yeah, the age-old question. Dan, I'm so sick of hearing people arguing about that. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to Star Wars discussions, and we'll pretend like we haven't already been having them. Like some kind of odd, drunken, 2 a.m. version of Star Wars discussions. And if you're still watching the main video, thanks a lot for watching Primetime Crisis this week. We sure appreciate it. Sorry we couldn't go live. Gonna try again next week. And now we move on to Star Wars discussions. Here we go. Hello everyone, welcome once again to Star Wars Discussions. I am Captain Logan, and with me today, as always, is the amazing Dan Torrey.
Hello everyone.
And it's the fearful Steve Baxi.
Hey everybody.
And today we are talking about episode 12 of Star Wars Rebels. I don't have the episode title for this. Do you guys have the episode title?
I could get it in T-minus a couple minutes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I just realized that I did not.
I forgot what it was.
Did not write that down.
It seems like information we should.
Tarkin Rises.
Yeah, Tarkin Rises.
That's what it's called.
That's what it's called. It's called Return /
Call to Action is what it's
first
called.
time ever see Tarkin. Call to Action. Okay, so today we're going to talk about... We'll pretend like we're starting over. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Star Wars Discussions. I'm Captain Logan. This is Dan and Steve. Today we're talking about episode 12, Call to Action. And now we're going to begin straight away with Dan Torrey. Dan, tell us what you thought about this episode, bringing in Tarkin to finally get some business done. What did you think, sir? And give us a best moment and a worst moment.
For people that were watching the extended video, Tarkin's not like one of my all-time favorite Star Wars characters or anything. I like him fine. I like Peter Cushing in that role. He's a very good actor, and I thought he brought a certain amount of menacing gravitas to that role when he was when the character was living. So it was cool to see them bring that character back, and I thought the voice actor did a good job of sort of emulating Cushing's speech patterns and the way he sounded and things like that. It was pretty good. I actually think this is one of the better episodes since the pilot. I really liked how Tarkin sort of comes in and tells the Imperials, like, you guys ain't doing this right. We need to actually make things happen now. And he kind of organizes, Agent Callus and the Inquisitor and the Imperial establishment on Lothal, and he kind of teaches them how to go hunt some rebels, and it puts the rebels in some really tense situations. The rest of the show, it has sort of felt like, with the exception of a few places, that the rebels are always going to get out of it, and I was really worried that they were gonna put an easy out for them at the end of this episode, because it was such a tense situation. I didn't know how they were going to contrive any sort of way that I would be satisfied with to get Kanan out of the situation where he's surrounded by these Imperial troops and guns, and he's got the Inquisitor fighting him. Agent Callus is there, and the rest of the rebels kind of escape. And I'm glad that it was left on a cliffhanger where Kanan's in the custody of the Inquisitor. That's a really cool place to put that character. I really liked that we're doing some stuff finally with these people. And there's a lot of talk about trying to get the rebels to unite, and Tarkin worrying about the rebels consolidating their power and becoming a true force to be reckoned with. They need to be crushed while they're small. I'm hoping that we're moving towards building the larger Rebel Alliance now. The show has talked about things that it wants to do in the future and not really deliver at them, at least at a pace that we've been satisfied with. So I'm not holding my breath that we're going to get Mon Mothma in the next episode coming and like, let's make a Rebel Alliance, guys. It'll probably be a lot slower than that. But I'm glad that we're at least kind of moving that direction. It's pretty cool. And I'm actually eagerly anticipating to see what happens with Kanan moving forward. It's going to be really cool.
Steve, what did you think of this one?
I agree with Dan. You could count on one hand the number of scenes that are important from like the last 12 episodes. And that's been really irritating. But this episode kind of picks it back up. Tarkin drops on the scene and tells everyone that you guys were doing nothing for this much time. Let's get something done finally. And the fact that he's able to command the Inquisitor the way he does, the way he just degrades everyone, and also the fact that the Inquisitor actually does something menacing for once, aside from just kind of standing there and having a really cool voice. So that was all nice to see. The Kanan and Ezra relationship seemed to be a big part of this, and it's been handled really stereotypically until about now. I think it worked a little bit better here. It's still not great. It still really reeks of, I've been here and I've done this before. But going forward, there might be something interesting there. It's very much a New Hope kind of thing where Ezra's without his master for a little while, and we'll see what that does to him. And it's cool that we have Tarkin here for that, since it was a similar scene to Episode 4. Overall, I thought this one was okay. I like the final scene a lot, where Ezra's giving his speech and Kanan just has to stay there getting ready to talk to Tarkin and the Inquisitor. I like some of the stuff being done in the background with the Empire, and them trying to tighten their grip and trying to consolidate their power and reaffirm that they are fearful and they're not to be made fun of by a bunch of rebels on the ball. I still think it's moving too slow, though. I feel like this episode could have been a lot darker than it was. It kept switching between being fill-in, journey, quest-building stuff from A New Hope to dark stuff that you'd see in Empire. And I wasn't sure what it wanted to be entirely. I think this is a show that still would watch a lot better in a whole season box set than it does week to week. But if this is a sign of the pace that going forward, I'm a little bit happier.
Okay, well, Steve, I disagree with you a little bit about this episode being too slow and being too light and not dark enough, just compared to everything we've had lately, because I sure never saw the Inquisitor killing anyone on screen like that because of the show we've gotten. compared to everything we've had since the pilot, that was really dark. I was so surprised by it. I felt like I was seeing something a lot more graphic than what I was actually looking at because of what because the show has kind of degenerated lately, for me anyway, into kind of Disney Disney cartoon, just kind of for the kids, and not really enough for the adults. And I thought the way that kill was handled was really effective, in that it was on screen, but it was behind Khaled, or it was behind, was Tarkin standing right in front of it? And
I think so, yeah.
and I just thought that was really cool. That almost made it more effective to me, just because Tarkin was the focus there, and he's getting things done. He's getting down to business, and he exemplifies everything that the Empire is supposed to be. I love how right they're getting that they are the oppressive state. They make all the decisions for everyone, and if you work for them and you do well, you're rewarded for it. And if not, you're dead. And I think we needed something like this a lot earlier. I mean, I'm glad that we finally got this kind of stuff. I find Tarkin a really relatable character, because as soon as he comes in, he makes all the same criticisms about the show that I've been making. And I thought that was wondering, because I'm like,
do you relate to him because you order people's executions daily too?
Well, we won't talk about that. And this is not in any way whatsoever a model of what that would look like. But but anyway, no, I thought this one was really quite good, actually, and I'll echo what you guys both said about the cliffhanger. Tarkin, the only thing I could see happening in that situation is that he would make sure that Kanan was made an example of, because they've not been getting the job done, and every time they send stormtroopers up against these rebels, they always lose, and nothing ever happens. And so there's no way that he would do anything but kill the guy to make a point to the rest of them, both to his people and to the rest of the rebels. And I love that there just wasn't even enough time for any of that to happen. It is very possible that the next episode there will be a really, really contrived way that Kanan gets out of that situation. I really hope that it's not he's being held onto so that Tarkin or Callus or someone can interrogate him for information or something. I kind of hope they don't go there. I don't think that would happen. I think he would just kill him. I mean, he may do a New Hope thing and be like, where is the rebel base or whatever. I guess I could kind of see that, but it seems like it would be a lot more consistent with what his tactics have been so far, to just straight up kill the guy right, especially because he's the last Jedi as far as they know, and you wouldn't think that he would want him still around at all. I liked this one quite a bit, and partly just because it felt like it mattered.
Yeah, I agree. I really liked Tarkin's characterization in this, because there's this one line at the end of the episode where he's speaking to the rest of the Imperials, and he's saying that he knows what must be done in order to win a war, and that's how Tarkin views himself. He views himself as a necessary evil in a grand, greater cause, and that's sort of what the Empire should view themselves as they bring order to the galaxy at some sort of cost, and whatever they do in order to bring that order and not have complete and utter chaos is justifiable. And it's not like any big philosophical discussion in the episode, but I thought that lent a lot to his characterization, that line specifically.
Yeah, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, it reminded me a lot of Captain Pelion from the Zahn books, where he seems like he's an aged veteran of the Empire, and he has a lot of experience. He understands how things are running, so he's got a system in place, he's got a mindset, he's got a philosophy that he doesn't care to explain as long as he gets the results he's asking for.
And from Tarkin's position, too, it's like, he doesn't see any other way as effective because look at the place that the Empire's in. Like, their tactics is what got them to the top in the first place. They wouldn't be as powerful if they showed any mercy from his position. So I think all of that is very, very interesting.
Well, and I think the hope versus fear thing is working really well now in a way that it had kind of just been hinted at before and wasn't brought enough to the forefront. I really like that Tarkin makes it a us versus heroes thing, where it's like the thing that makes it most easy or most possible for us to defeat the rebels is that they have compassion and mercy, and we don't have that, or we shouldn't have that. And I think what's really cool is, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, and maybe this should have been again something more in the forefront, but perhaps one of the reasons that the Empire hasn't caught the rebels yet is because their hearts aren't in it. A lot of the people that have been sent after them. What has the incentive been so far? They're not ruthless. They're just hired. They're just hired. They're just there for a paycheck, and they're just kind of spreading the rhetoric because it's the way for them to put food on the table for their families or whatever. But now you get Tarkin in here, and I feel like Tarkin could continue to be elaborated on and be a really, really super interesting character. Tarkin comes in and he says, "No, you have to embody what we represent, or because of what we represent, we will kill you." And so he's like trying to force everyone that works under him to be that same kind of ruthless. And so the incentive is, if you do this, you will get to live. And we don't care about you any more than we care about the rebels.
Yeah, and me and Steve were talking a little bit about this on Facebook before we started recording. There's a novel that just came out that's in the new expanded universe canon that's kind of been paved over now that Disney is doing their own thing with it, and it's about Tarkin, his relationship with the Emperor. And after this episode, I'm kind of keen on reading it.
Yeah.
It sounds really interesting because I don't know, I have sort of a renewed interest in the character after this episode, and I'd like to read more about him.
Yeah, and I just bought the novel, and it's written by the same guy that does Darth Plagueis, and Darth Plagueis is one of the best Star Wars novels as far as taking place in the prequel trilogy is considered. And it's not as good as Plagueis, but it's really, really fascinating. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, too, where they're trying to make Tarkin the new Thrawn, and it works in that novel in a way that it doesn't work just when you say it. He's played up as a far more interesting character in that. So if they keep alluding to that, or if they keep building on that backstory, he could very well be a really popular character in his own right.
I just feel like taking this show, and maybe I'm enjoying this episode slightly more than you guys, just because I don't have as much experience with Star Wars as you guys do. But like, just taking the show on its own terms, he is a lot more interesting than a lot of other characters who've had the show so far, right? I mean, like,
definitely.
Just up front, I'm immediately. He has a lot of presence.
Like in the movie when he first appears, like. The performance is good, and he has some interesting relationship, especially with Darth Vader. Like, Darth Vader is kind of subservient to him in A New Hope, which is something I think a lot of people forget about.
Yeah.
Because you always think as Darth Vader only being subservient to the Emperor and being his own kind of unbridled, powerful dude, villainous guy. So I think there's some seeds of potential coolness in Tarkin. There just wasn't a lot done with him in that original film, obviously, because they were too busy focusing on Obi-Wan and Vader's relationship and stuff. So I'm glad that they're doing more stuff with him, for sure, because he has potential, definitely.
We have a comic store owner in our documentary who is such a giant Star Wars fan, he named his son Tarkin.
Interesting.
That's awesome.
I kind of want to send him a message after seeing this episode and ask him if he watched this, because he's probably super excited about Tarkin getting some kind of character development now after he named his son. And he told me the story. This bit isn't in the documentary, so I'll tell it here. He told me the story about how his kid comes up to him one day and says, "Hey, how come you named me after a bad guy?" And then he was like, this kid's like 3 or 4, and then he was like, okay, so you named me Tarkin, how come you didn't name me Grand Moff? And I just think that's really funny.
in any situation that called for it, if that was my name, I would just say, "You may file when ready." All the time. I would just say that all the time.
I want to throw out a minor criticism, and I don't know if you guys have this. And I think it was used earlier in the series, so this is perhaps a redundant criticism. But should we really be using the Darth Vader theme when there's no Darth Vader there? I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, the fact that it was Tarkin made it a little more okay, just because then I thought he was really menacing, and I was kind of excited about him. But when he walks out, I was like, because they did a slightly extended version of the pilot where there's like one scene with Darth Vader, and I got excited. I thought maybe we got Vader, and then Tarkin walks out. I was like, I don't know that that's fair. I think you're messing with the audience there. What do you guys think?
Well, to be fair, and I guess this would be a counterpoint from some people, is it wasn't the Darth Vader theme until after the couple movies, and until that point, it was just the generic Empire theme.
Was it though?
It's called the Imperial March in the composition books and stuff like that.
No, and I know that, and I liked it. And I mean, remember, I liked it when they actually played it in the parade. that was great. But like, I don't know. You've got a ship flying in. It's too reminiscent. I guess my point is here. It's too reminiscent of the first time you see Vader in A New Hope, and when it's not Vader, I don't know. I kind of expected him.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
I guess it's a fair expectation.
It reminded me a lot of when the Emperor comes out of the shuttle in Return of the Jedi, too.
Well, maybe that's
it's
what I'm thinking
obviously
of.
less grandiose because, the entire Death Star stormtroopers line up for the Emperor in that, but they do use the Imperial March theme when he comes in, too, so it reminded me a little bit of that as well.
Okay, well, maybe it's not a problem. It's just I thought the show was saying, we're giving you Vader, guys.
I mean, that would have been awesome. I love me some Darth Vader.
Well, he's supposed to appear later in the season, so we'll see.
Okay, cool. Well, that's
awesome.
That's exciting. That's okay because I'm getting plenty of Vader in Jason Aaron's Star Wars comics right now, and that's enough for me. He's pretty awesome there. Does anybody else have, or does anybody else? We've got a group of like 20 people in here right now. No. Do either of you guys have anything else you want to say about this episode before we move on? I guess we haven't done any of the categories. Any quotes? Anything?
Not too many quotes. Predictions wise, I hope after we save Kanan that that the rebels have kind of been somewhat broken. Like Grand Moff Tarkin knows every location they've been at. They've sent probe droids out to look for them. I hope this forces them to leave this planet and they go and do.
I know. That's what I keep saying. Now, I just thought of a possible counter to the whole "they're only on Lothal" thing. We had, and I mean, I don't know if I like this because I'm with you, Dan. I wish they'd go places. But here's a suggestion: is it? And I mean, this is convenient, but is it possible that part of the reason they've kept them on Lothal is because if they were out too much in the universe, they would find other packs of rebels? Because there's this really kind of cryptic thing, or at least mysterious thing, that Tarkin keeps saying about other rebel sects. And I keep wondering if he's just making that up to, try to inspire his troops, or if there really are other rebel sects, and if we actually left Lothal, we would have found some of them.
Well, I mean, there has been hints that these rebels are trying to, hook up with other rebel cells, and that's the whole point of the episode, is to try to contact them. So I would imagine they actually do exist.
Yeah.
I don't think Tarkin's lying about that in any way. I just wish they would have gone out and tried to find the rebel sects sooner, because we still don't know what their plan, what they've been trying to accomplish is. Like, it's still in the dark. Hera and Kanan know what it is, but we haven't told the audience yet. So hopefully that's interesting. They finally reveal it.
We don't like to tell the audience a lot in this show, and sometimes we like to just straight up or just like make the audience think they're going to get a thing and then never tell them about it ever. And now I wonder if the thing with his parents is even if there was anything ever, and they just pretended like there was, but because I don't know. Okay, I'm jumping all over the place, but let's do trivia questions really quick, because then I have one more question for you guys. Did you guys have any trivia questions? I had nothing from the episode, so you guys go ahead.
I didn't write one down at the start.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, well, I've got one.
Go ahead, Steve.
Tarkin on film is played by Peter Cushing, as we talked about. What role was Cushing originally offered for A New Hope?
I'm gonna say Yoda. I'm kidding. Yoda's not even in A New Hope.
I didn't realize he was offered another role. That's interesting.
Yeah, he was offered this particular role, and part of the reason he didn't get it is because they thought he just worked as Tarkin so well.
Which is hilarious, because it's not like Tarkin got a lot to do. Dan,
yeah, it's strange.
Dan, do you want to take a guess? I think it would be fun to guess.
I mean, my instinct would be Obi-Wan.
Because
Cushing kind of played. Cushing in the Hammer horror films used to play good guys, and that's part of the reason why they cast Christopher Lee as Count Dooku, is because he used to play Dracula in the Hammer movies, and Cushing used to go up against Lee in those movies. They were antagonists. So I would say maybe Obi-Wan.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that right, Steve? Cool.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to guess too. Look at us. We got it right.
That's cool.
I had one more note.
I'm glad that they gave him Tarkin instead, because I like Alec Guinness a lot. Even though he didn't like playing that role, he thought it was fairy tale fluff that never would go anywhere. And then look what happened, you know.
Yeah. And then it changed the world, and probably to him for the worst. And then we all got really unsophisticated. Well, I have one more question for you guys before we go. And again, I don't know Star Wars anything like you guys, so this is just a question. Is there any pre-established canonical thing anywhere of the Rebel symbol supposed to be something like a phoenix rising from the ashes?
It used to be the symbol of the Jedi Order.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's been around for a while. So, and I think that where that symbol came from with the Jedi is there was a Dark Horse comic for a little while that was talking about the origins of the Force and the Jedi and the Sith, and the symbol of something that was resembling a phoenix was talked about in those books for a couple issues, but they never said anything definitive about it.
Okay, because here they just straight up showed it like that. I don't know if you guys noticed it. But in this episode,
where did you see it?
In this episode, there's a shot of, I forget now. It was on a wall. It was like inscribed on a wall, like graffiti or something. And it was clearly in the shape of the rebel symbol, but it was a bird with a fire under it.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I was asking you guys if there was any, if there was, any history for that, because I thought that was really interesting.
They call it a starbird, so it's possible. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just wondered if there was any precedent. Okay, awesome. Well, I was just proud of myself for noticing it. Anyway, well, that's going to be it for us for Star Wars discussions. So, and we don't have to answer Steve's trivia question because Dan and I are brilliant and we figured it out. So, anyway, everybody, thanks a lot for watching Star Wars discussions, and I was really excited that we actually got something we could sink our teeth into a little bit this time. So, at least a little bit.
Yeah.
I think I liked it more than you guys did, but I don't know. I think I had kind of a giddy kid thing where I was like, cool, people are doing things. So anyway,
which is justified with this show.
Yeah, maybe it is. Well, anyway, everybody, thanks for watching, and if you are watching this as a separate video, thanks again, and we'll see you again next week. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Dan.
I'm Steve.
Okay, guys, I'm going to take a quick break. We are at the halfway point, and Dan, are you going to get going? Because you got no more shows left to do.
Yeah, I'll probably get going after you come back. I would feel bad to leave Steve to entertain the audience all by himself while you're in the bathroom.
That's cool.
Exactly. That's by myself.
That's cool. You guys chat amongst yourselves about anything you want to, and if you talk behind my back, I can watch this later and I'll know it. So, anyway, I will be right back in just a minute or two.
Well, to be fair, since it's not live, you could have just edited that whole part.
That's true. I kind of forgot about that, but man, I'm glad that you liked Knights of the Old Republic as much as you did. I was hoping that you would like it. I thought you would because it's so amazing, but I don't know. I gave that game to some people before. Like when I was a kid, I gave that game as a present to one of my good friends, and he played it for like 10 minutes and then sold it to the GameStop. He didn't like it so much.
Oh wow. Well, I guess to be fair, you do have to play it for a couple hours because it takes a while to get going until you become a Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of RPGs are like that. There's kind of a learning curve where you learn your class or whatever. Like, what initial class did you pick? Did you pick Soldier, Scout, or it's Scoundrel?
Scoundrel.
Okay, so you were a Han Solo type initially, and then became Jedi Counselor.
Yeah, because ever since I was a kid, Han Solo was my favorite Star Wars character, so I had to pick Scoundrel when I saw that option show up.
Oh, of course, yeah. I always like playing dark side consulars because you can just like rain lightning down upon people and destroy them. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I would always play a double bladed dark consular and just wreck everybody.
I've got one regular lightsaber and then one short lightsaber, and initially they were like blue and green, but then I got those Heart of the Guardian and Mantle of Force crystals, and they became like this red fire and blue fire type, and they just demolish everything in their path. Nothing stands against them. Dark Jedi are like 2-hit kills with those things. When I was fighting Malik at the very end, it was ridiculous how easy it was to kill him with those lightsaber crystals.
Did you even kill like the because you know how he draws on dark side energy from the corpses, the Jedi corpses and stuff on the Starforge?
Yeah,
like you can destroy those corpses before you. Oh, okay. You just straight up killed them. That's awesome.
Yeah, I just straight up beat him. It was so easy. And part of that's just because I got that upgrade before I probably should have. Because I think they've set it up in that game where it's a DLC thing, so you beat the game and then you go back and get those crystals and on a replay. But I knew where they were to begin with, so I just got them.
Yeah, I wish they'd make a proper third game because they made an MMO and I played it for a little while and it was fun, but like I like single player RPGs where I can like take my time and like go through the game and I don't have to like rely on people that don't know how to play the game to do missions and stuff. Like they recently came out with a expansion pack for the game and it's all about Revan, and he's somehow survived because the Old Republic MMO is set like a couple hundred years in the future, and you like meet him, but it's like, you know, a raid where you have to like go in with like a bunch of people and like do the. I'm like, I just want to go and like play the story by myself and like experience it. Like I don't want to have to deal with all that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I hate multiplayer ones.
Yeah, like I mean, I used to play World of Warcraft back in the day, and like the game mechanics of that are really refined, but like. It's so hard to like get a group together in the Star Wars one. There's no like group finder and stuff. It just I don't have time to like sit in this city and just yell looking for a group for this thing and try to find 25 people to play a game with, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you would either have to have like a mass group of friends that you can play with right away, or you would have to like befriend people online, and then you can't enjoy the story. And the best part about Knights of the Old Republic is how amazing the story is.
And they handle the story pretty well in that MMO. Like, you go into, like, isolated cutscenes where, like, you do the conversation however you want, and, like, the other people in the party do the same thing. So it's, like, it's kind of cool how they handle it, but it's still not the same for me.
Yeah, that's fair. I might play the second game, just because I'm really curious.
The second game is good.
Is it good?
The second game's good. They had to rush it out. And they didn't get to finish the story they wanted to tell, and like some of the stuff's cut out. There's people that have modded it and like put the added content back in, but like what's there is still pretty fun, and the gameplay is just as good. So you should check it out. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, I've looked up some of those story elements there, and I know the guy who wrote Darth Bane also wrote an Old Republic Revan novel that covers a lot of that stuff, and I really want to get my hands on that since Darth Bane is my favorite expanded universe story.
Really? I didn't know there was a Revan novel. That's awesome. I'm gonna have to check it out because the Old Republic era of Star Wars is my favorite. Oh, cool.
Yeah, same here. I love all of that stuff. I love the comics. I love the game. Most of the novels are really good.
The ancient Sith Order on Korriban is so cool. Where like it's old Egyptian tombs and stuff. I don't know. I love all that stuff. But you guys probably have to do shows, so I should probably be quiet about that.
No, that's all right. Dan, thanks for being here, man.
No problem. Thanks for having me, and hopefully we can do live next week. I'm hoping that the evil empire, also known as Google, doesn't crush our rebellion in trying to do live shows again next week.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, if there have to be bots like that, can they at least be as incompetent as stormtroopers? Can we have, like...
That would be amazing.
Can we
imagine if internet law enforcement was that incompetent? You'd be able to get away with anything.
Oh, you can do anything. Yeah, and then we can have a section on shows that's like, that's so YouTube bot.
Yeah, the internet law enforcement would just timidly email you and be like, please don't do that.
They're just sitting at a desk with the helmets on.
Oh, that's phenomenal. That's best case scenario. I love that.
Well, Dan, thanks again for being here, man, and we will see you again next week for more Star Wars, and I think probably Flash, and what's the other show you do? Agent Carter.
Agent Carter.
Carter, yeah, because that's how she talks. She's British.
That's how I talk.
No, that's how Dan talks. Oh, yeah, that's right. And whenever Dan's on, he has to curb his northern accent.
I do. I have to be very specific about the way I speak. Yes.
You know, I used to have that for a long time, Dan, because I was originally from Arkansas, and I had a very thick Southern accent for a while when I was a kid. And when I was still living in Arkansas, I actually, this is like around 4th, 5th grade, I actually worked really hard to sound more neutral, because I realized that if you lived in, where, especially because it was like this little tiny podunk town in Arkansas, right, in central Arkansas, I realized that if you sound more sophisticated, everyone thinks you're a genius. Or at least these kids did. You had that too? And it's the same in the North? Is it really?
There would be like certain words, like the word might. Some people don't pronounce it like all the way. They say ma. So that's the way I used to say the word. Like, I might as well do this, that's how some people speak. And I just used to talk like that all the time, and then I realized, going to school, I'm like, that's not actually how you're supposed to say that word. So I kind of corrected myself after a while,
I would have kids
come up to me.
And
there was other things like that. That wasn't the only one, but that's just an example.
I would have kids come up to me and ask for help with their math homework. And I'd be like, I'm not good at math just because I speak correctly. It was hilarious, and they all thought that I was really good at everything. And I was a little bit of a conceited little kid, so I milked it for all it was worth. Well, anyway,
you just give everyone wrong answers. They're like, "Oh, come on, kid."
That's what you get for not doing your own homework. God. What do I look like, Marty McFly's dad? I'm not gonna do everybody's homework. Do I look like George McFly? Well, we'll see you later, Dan.
We'll see you, Dan.
No problem. I will just I will talk to you guys very soon, and we'll have to do that Superman vault maybe next week or the week after if you have some time.
Yes, absolutely. We will get to it.
Alrighty.
All right.
I'll try not to hang up this entire call when I leave.
I don't think you have the ability, do you?
Probably not.
I got the power.
The power. What are you, Bruce Almighty? Oh, he's gone. Anyway, all right. So, Steve.
Okay, cool. So it didn't hang up. Great.
Steve, it's time for string cheese.
Oh, good. Okay, let me grab my donuts then.
Yeah,
it's time for donuts.
Yeah, we're gonna take a food break here on camera.
Cheese and donuts.
Yeah, that's a winning combination.
Yes.
Oh,
especially when you have to deal with how bad Arrow is this week. Did I mention how bad Arrow is?
You're the whole screen now.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and so are you. It's all HD and stuff.
Steve, there's a part of me that really wants to hold Arrow for all the way till the end. And then just have you keep giving your mini review of, I didn't like it, but...
If I was doing this on my channel, I actually storyboarded this whole sequence of using clips to explain just why every line of dialogue from certain characters is infuriatingly bad.
Now, when you say infuriatingly bad, do you mean like it just doesn't make any sense and nobody would say it, or just it's just, badly written dialogue?
It doesn't make any sense in the sense that you just retcon the entire character's motivation from the last couple seasons.
There's a lot of that. We'll get there. But first, I'm going to make you watch us talk about Constantine unless you skip ahead because it's a video and we're not live.
There's a special place in hell for people that make John Barrowman unlikable.
Okay, look, we're not doing Arrow right now, okay? You just eat your donut and think about Constantine, okay?
Yes, the actual good show that might be saved.
Okay, do we have any news about it might being saved? It might be being saved?
The producers on the show confirmed that they're in talks to possibly move to Sci-Fi. Because Sci-Fi, when they aired the entire Constantine marathon, got really good ratings. And they're allowed to do more over there, and NBC doesn't want to cancel it. So they're having serious talks about moving it to Sci-Fi, also because one of the main producers is a guy that actually created the first original series on that network. So they owe him. And they're going to try and rebrand it Hellblazer.
Oh, cool. I don't know that they need to rebrand it, but that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter if they call it Constantine or Hellblazer, but if they just want to sell it to the network as a new show, then why not, if it keeps going?
I hope they keep the same cast.
Yeah, they're going to.
Oh, that's exciting. Okay, well, let's go ahead and do Constantine then, shall we? I'm gonna do this so you're still eating donut because it's hilarious. All right, here we go. Hello, everyone. I'm Captain Logan, and this is Steve, and welcome to Constantine Discussions. Today, we are talking about the 12th episode, Angels and Ministers of Grace. And if you haven't been watching the main Primetime Crisis video, we were just talking about. You just caught us right in the middle of talking about how, according to Steve, there is a chance that Constantine is going to get saved pretty soon. It sounds like a pretty decent chance, right? Steve said that it might go to the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, so one of the producers on Constantine is actually the guy that created the first sci-fi original series. So he's confirmed, along with a bunch of other news sites, that they're in serious talks to move it over to sci-fi. And they're going to call it Hellblazer, and they're allowed to get away with a lot more stuff and do more of the horror comic, political comic stuff in the series. And NBC really doesn't want to cancel it. NBC really loves the show. They just aren't sure if they can afford to keep it on their main network.
Well, it's cool that they're at least coming out and saying we support it, and if it gets canceled, just know it's because we can't afford to make it, not that we don't believe in it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it sounds like they're handling it
in the production, and everyone in the studio loves the show. It's just a matter of it's not getting the ratings they think it deserves.
Well, I think it's really cool they're handling it that way. I mean, if it ends up, even if it got canceled and Sci-Fi didn't pick it up, I don't think NBC will go down in history as being like Fox.
Right, and I mean, even if it gets canceled and Sci-Fi doesn't get it, Amazon's got an exclusive contract to air the episode, so Amazon is interested in picking it up too.
Yeah, so there's no way we don't get more episodes of this show at this point, right? Or at least, like, really unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to curse it and say there's no way and it's guaranteed, but there's a really, really strong chance that it's going to continue.
That is really exciting. I gotta say,
Yes.
This being the, let's go ahead and just get right into it. I'll say this real quick, and then Steve, you can go ahead and give your 2 cents on the episode. But I finished this episode and said, "Man, we've got one more left, and this is not the time to stop this show." Right? Like we're finally already making Manny a much more fleshed out human character. Ironically, because he's an angel, and like this is not. It does not feel like a show that's almost done, and you sure don't want it to end right now. Steve, Angels and Ministers of Grace, how'd you feel about this episode?
First off, we don't talk enough about episode titles, but it's a really good episode title. And I really like this. I don't think it's as good as the last couple episodes, mostly because I think there's some continuity issues with how angel powers work.
Okay,
and I think I'll just go ahead and start there.
Would you elaborate on that? Because I didn't pick up on that. Go ahead.
So in the episode with the Fallen Angel, I can't remember what that one was called, but in the episode with the Fallen Angel, there's that thing where John begs Manny to help him, and Manny does it by possessing Zed's body and then taking out the angel. But in this episode, he says, if I'm in a human body, I lose contact with all my powers. And when John tries to call on him, he says, I've never asked you for anything before, but that's not true, because he has. And he's done it the favor for him before. So that's weird. That felt like awkward dialogue. If you just cut those 2 lines, it would have been no problem.
Okay.
But yeah, other than that, this was really good. I thought this was fascinating character stuff, and it proves the point that we were talking about last episode with you don't need to make this show about some master manipulator plot, even though it is about that, because you can just do episodes with characters that move things forward slowly, and they still matter, and they still resonate with you, and they still have the emotional impact. I thought everything we got between John not being able to admit Zed's condition and Zed trying to live with it and Manny trying to interact now with 2 people and being more human both literally and figuratively, I thought all that was handled really well. I love the guy that plays Manny. He was in the 2 Matrix sequels, and he's terrible in that because those are terrible movies. But he finally gets to show some range in his acting capabilities, and he's not the same stoic, sarcastic angel he was before. There's a degree of fear in what he's doing and a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of stuff with him that's nuanced in the performance with what is it like for this guy to be human for the first time ever and to actually feel the heartbeat and to feel fear and to feel pain and stuff like that. I thought that was all great. With the only part that I actually didn't like about the human being my worst moment is when we get to that thing with the nurse and they have sex in one of the back rooms. I get the point of that. That's all fine. But it felt a little bit contrived and a little bit generic that it's in a hospital, so let's do the generic hospital drama thing of the doctors date each other. And I didn't care for that. Other than that, though, I thought it was great. It's not a very John episode, But there's a lot of good stuff for John when it comes to how he feels about Zed and how he feels about the cost of magic. And there's a number of great John moments you could pick here with when he's talking to Manny about whether or not he should see her, or that bit at the end when he's in the church talking to her, or even just the funny stuff of John lights up his cigarette using a church candle.
I didn't
which is
catch
hilarious.
that. That's awesome. Somehow I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, and I mean, I just thought it was really good. It's not as good as last week's episode, but it's still like one of the best shows on TV.
But last week's episode was standout for the show.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
I want to cover a couple things you said real quick. First of all, the guy who plays Manny was also a major character in Lost. He was really good there, and he and this show's had a lot of Lost alum. He tends to kind of get typecast as characters that are supposed to be unlikable, or at least eventually that way, and Manny so far does not seem to be that, but he could end up being that still, I think. There's still some mystery there, and yet I thought there was a lot of genuine warmth with how he felt about humans after being one of them, and the way he he has a really nice subtle character arc. I like that that getting a taste of what it's like to be human, he appreciates humans even more than he did before, and there seems to be a certain amount of respect, I think partially just built into his genetic makeup, really, being an angel, and they're supposed to almost not worship humans, but they're almost subservient to them in a way, and in how the hierarchy works, because they're not God's elect. They have that whole thing going on, and we had some discussion about that in that episode with the fallen angel that I also don't remember the episode title of. And anyway, so you get to the end of this, and Manny suddenly sees Zed as really heroic, because she is willing to keep this tumor in her head that could kill her at any time. Nobody knows. And she's just doing that because she's trying to do the right thing and help people, and she believes in what John's doing. And Manny believes in what John's doing. And I like that in the middle of the episode, Manny tells, or maybe it's even toward the beginning when he first gets his powers, or loses powers, that he doesn't see how John can keep going on doing what he's doing. Being human is hard, and there's so much pain, and is it worth the good stuff about being human? And John tends to get the short end of the stick everywhere, and part of that, of course, is because of the, as we keep saying, the way he keeps getting himself in the same situation over and over again. So some of that is his fault. But I like that a lot of this episode was about how not everything is John's fault, and that being human is about trade-off. And that sometimes the horrible stuff that you have to experience being mortal is worth it, because there's so many really good positive things, and yet it wasn't sappy about that, because much of the time even the positive things are just you help somebody else out, not you're it's not always just you got to have sex. You know what I mean? It's not always that. I totally see why you reacted to that scene that way. I did too, to a degree, although I felt like, and yeah, it's a little convenient, and we kind of gotta just get something in there for Manny to appreciate the contrast of the pros and cons to being human, and that ultimately it is a rewarding experience. Or at the very least, I mean, maybe I'm even going too far saying that, or at the very least that you get moments of pleasure for all of the pain. And by the way, that whole speech that John has about I don't understand how in the world that's a sin. I really like that. That's
my best line. I love that.
Oh, that was wonderful. But yeah, so I appreciate that Manny got something like that to do. I think for this show, it's probably good that it was something adult like that, and I don't think it was too adult or anything. But I'm with you. It's a little bit contrived. Another show would make it like eating food or something, right? How many times have we seen that? Where like an immortal, or someone like loses powers that wasn't human, and they become human, and then all of a sudden they have taste buds and they go around eating everything. We've done it in Star Trek like 50 times.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was watching that episode of Angel today.
Oh yeah. Really? Were you reminded, Steve, you watched most of Next Generation, yes?
I've watched all of Next Generation.
Okay,
yeah.
Were you reminded at all of Deja Q when Q loses powers, becomes human, and orders 10 chocolate sundaes. I was reminded of that this entire episode, and I liked how it played it with the dark flavor of this show. This is definitely the most humorous episode so far, and that's very telling because it's not laugh out loud funny. The humor in the show is really dry, and yet I found it really funny in a lot of places. I could live with an entire season of Manny as a human.
I mean, I could potentially live with like a Manny spinoff. I like that when we get stuff with Manny, it's really not even like sappy. At the end of the day, it's a good message. It's at the end of the day, there's an element to his character now where the cost of being an angel is that he can't experience that ever again anymore. And that you're breaking the rules by doing it in the first place. So it's a happy ending. It's a more optimistic than we've gotten before. But now that guy has an experience and has used himself in such a way that he can't ever get back. And that ultimately makes the same kind of tragic tone that we've got for the rest of the series.
And we talk a lot about consequences in the show because that's what it's all about. And I like that we're, in this episode, exploring positive and negative consequences at the same time. Or what I mean is consequences of doing the right thing also, right? Like a lot of the time, it's really easy to look at it as you do magic, that's always bad because you're like going against nature or something. But in this show, it's more complicated than that because there are a lot of hints of God gives people powers and they're supposed to use them, but then there are still consequences to that, and the whole idea is just that there's a price for everything. It doesn't matter if it's positive, it doesn't matter that it's negative. And I think I guess this is just me kind of analyzing this whole notion, but I think the idea of there are consequences to everything is exactly the same as there's a bright side and a dark side to everything. I mean, it's exactly the same thing. There's always a trade-off.
There's actually an issue of Hellblazer where John gets to talk with God, and they have like a long conversation, and at the end of the day, God is essentially just Manny but aged. Like they come to the same realization, and John gets that same answer of everything has a consequence. Doesn't matter if it's good or it doesn't matter if it's bad. And you can spin it any way you want, but at the end of the day, you're going to lose something even if you get something.
And then the question, of course, is, well, then what is the point of doing anything? And you know what I mean? Like, what is the point of doing the right thing? Because you'll lose something, and ultimately, it just all comes down to human nature, I think, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's probably what where the show is really kind of going with it, is that you know, you could just live any way you want to because there's always going to be negative consequences to everything. But what are the consequences you can live with versus the ones that you can't? I think that's the distinction.
Yeah, that's true. And it's good that we don't get a complete answer to that in that episode. Like, it's a question where we can talk about, but I can totally see that being an entire season theme, something that John has to wrestle with moving forward. It's an idea, but it's one that still could definitely evolve into something a bit more.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, he's such a complex character, you know, it makes me want to go back and examine why he decided to start fighting the Rising Darkness in the first place, you know? Is it because of guilt, or is it because of responsibility?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a bit of now with Manny that, is he going to be okay with sending John on these missions now that he knows what it's like to be human?
Yeah.
So whatever John's reasoning is, there's an element of, can John manipulate him now, or does Manny have to try and understand what John needs as opposed to just using him as the tool that he was using for the rest of the series?
Well, and do you think that there was any amount of Manny, like, playing that up, or do you think that it was all genuine?
I think all of it was genuine.
I do too.
It's hard to say, though. Simply because of the nature of the show. At the same time, I feel like if he was faking any bit of it, it wouldn't make sense considering he's never been human before. Unless he has, and we just don't know.
That's kind of what I was alluding to. I like that when you get to the end of the episode, Manny is not angry with John for playing him the way he did, because he gave him something. It was almost a gift, and I think that was really cool. And as much as this episode is about consequences, it's also about gifts versus curses. And so, you know, as at the same time as there's a positive and a negative to everything, every curse is also a gift, and every gift is also a curse, or at least a lot of them. But like, you've got that moment where Manny figures out that John could have reversed it and turned him back into an angel at any time, and I was really surprised when he got to the end of the episode and he doesn't berate him for it. I also like that he doesn't thank him for it either. He's really neutral, like they just don't talk about it, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that made a lot of sense, especially because, at the end of the day, I guess John was, maybe he wasn't right in the way he played him, but it was maybe a thing that had to happen.
Yeah, and in that way you have to talk about, like, the intention behind it. So John forces Manny to become human, but he does it out of selfishness, he does it out of anger, he does it as a punishment, as we have to put this guy on a leash.
Yeah.
And ultimately, he teaches him that it's a reward, and Manny thinks of it almost as a reward. So it almost raises this question of, if you get anything in life, period, and is there a basis for it? That Nietzsche idea of, is there a basis for it in something that's completely the opposite? And if so, if every reward starts as a punishment, then what does that say about rewards in general? What does that say about living in general? Because there's an origin to everything that is built on a foundation that probably wouldn't have supported it.
Well, and there's still also a bit of an ends justifies the means question there too, right? Where okay, so it ends up with him being glad that he got to be human and he learned something really positive from it. But if that wasn't John's intention in the first place, then John was still manipulative, and he doesn't suddenly become not manipulative just because it turned out well.
Yeah, no, that's true. And this is, again, something, and it's terrible that we've only got one episode left this season.
Yeah.
Because this is a thing that I would love to see them talk about for a good couple of episodes following this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But I thought it was really cool that you get to the end and there's not a big argument about it. That he doesn't complain about it. That was really cool.
Also glad that there's no cliffhanger for this episode. Next season being a season finale, it's great that we don't end this one in a fashion that's just a gimmick to get to this next part.
That's a really good point. On the other hand, well, no, they certainly could have done that, because even not knowing if they were getting canceled or not, they knew how many episodes were ordered in the first place. So yeah, they totally could have done that. Do you have a favorite quote beyond the one that we mentioned earlier?
No, that was my big one. I thought that whole line was fantastic, especially the way he capped it off with "Do what thou wilt."
I loved that. I wrote that one down too. This one was really quotable. What a wonderful script. I'm gonna throw out a few things. Heroes are usually jerks at heart. I like that a lot. I like that describes just how John sees himself. And I think that that's like his arrogance and his insecurity all rolled into one, right? Like he actually, to a degree, sees himself as a hero, I think. And
yeah,
and he kind of hates that
card he has of Master of the Dark Arts. He has to get that changed.
Yeah. I love that line. That's fantastic. There's like an inherent dichotomy there. This is the labyrinth we choose to walk. Good Lord. I watch the show and I go, I wish I could write like that. I love stuff like that. Chaz, you should have just killed me. I gotta ask you, by the way, a question about Chaz. Does he have a healing factor that's not related to his being killed? I thought that he had to die in order to come back and be healed and stuff. But apparently, it doesn't matter if he actually dies. His curse also comes with just a straight-up generic healing factor.
See, I'm not sure if it just comes with a generic healing factor, though, because he's still, like, limping for most of the episode.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought they did a shot where, like, it was starting to heal.
Oh, I'm not, okay. I didn't see that, but, like, when you get to the end,
maybe
he's still
I was looking at it wrong.
Around. So
okay.
it's possible that you have to kill him before he heals.
Okay, but then that makes John a lot meaner than I thought he was, because he could have stabbed himself in the leg to get in there. Like why? Well, I guess it still had to be him to do. No, because then the thing with Manny was just a matter of dropping a vial or something. Anybody could have done that. Okay, yeah. So I am questioning. I never get to criticize the show for anything, so I'm going to criticize. I am questioning John stabbing Chaz just because he's the guy who gets mortally wounded all the time, even though he's not going to die here. Yeah, and when Chaz says you should have just killed me, I'm like, well, yeah, and then Chaz pulls the thing out, and I'm going, you're not supposed to do that! Okay, other quotes. Manny to John, did you page me? I think that's really funny. Like,
and then John rebuttal to that saying you should have had a pager sooner. It's so convenient.
I missed that that line? That's hilarious. Yeah, I couldn't believe that. He's like paging Manny. And that's inherently hilarious too, because you think about all the times in the show that he's like called for Manny and tried to get him to show up, and sometimes he shows up and sometimes not. Now that he's a human, has him on that leash, as you put it, now you can just page him. I love that. I didn't even think of that. That's hilarious. Okay, let's do trivia questions really quick. What is yours, sir?
Okay, so there's a character in this episode that's the fake out for the real killer, and he actually looks and sounds quite a bit like a comic book character. He looks a lot like the Family Man serial killer from, I think it was Jamie Delano's second to last story arc. But in that run, in the Family Man killer, what occupation did that killer actually have?
His occupation was Family Man. My trivia question is, because I'm so fixated on the hilarity of the Chaz thing, what is Chaz impaled with as a ruse to get him in the hospital? You noticed that earlier I said the thing, because I didn't want to say what the thing was. Yeah. Anyway, okay, we are really close to finished. Yeah, we just have a minute here, so I want to see if there's anything else here that I wrote down that I wanted to mention. No, that's it. I thought I had some predictions, but I have already talked about them. Anything else that you want to throw out, Steve?
No, aside from, I really hope that we do get official confirmation of this show continuing. I don't want it to be one more episode. It's too good for that.
I think the best thing that could happen is that they get it figured out and resolved by next week. This won't happen. But what would be really cool is if we had a title card at the end of the last episode that was like, don't worry, it's coming back on this network. That would be so cool.
Well, I mean, it's possible that, we won't get that, but it's possible that we'll have a decision by next week because NBC is looking at the final 2 episode ratings before they make any kind of final call. So
they're
we will
still
probably have
holding
that
out.
answer next weekend.
So you're saying there's still even a possibility that it gets renewed on NBC?
Yeah, anything's possible right now. They are looking at as many options as possible to keep the show alive, which is good.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I just love that NBC is so behind it, and it's just a question of whether or not they can afford it.
Yeah, and I mean, they've had Grimm on this channel, and Grimm had worse ratings, or not Grimm, I mean Hannibal had worse ratings on the first season. Grimm is a show that they do really well with, and it's exactly like Constantine, but not as good. So there's a precedent for keeping it alive. It's just a matter of, can they do it justice? Can they keep the budget there? Can they keep the censorship working?
Yeah, because what you don't want is for them to have to drop production quality in order to keep it going, because it just looks really good, and you don't want them to lose that.
Yeah, exactly. I guess that'd be part of the issue of if it moves to sci-fi, it probably wouldn't look as good. But that's okay, considering they can do more horror stuff, and horror works better when you see less.
I hope they get to shoot it at least on the same standing sets that they have right now. I hope we don't lose that.
Yeah, probably, because NBC owns all of that, so potentially it could still do that.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and do trivia. The answers to our trivia questions really quick. And what was yours? What was his occupation besides Family Man? I'm going to take a guess. Was he a doctor?
No, he was a police officer.
Oh,
actually.
okay.
Yes, he was actually the very first villain or antagonist in a Hellblazer comic that wasn't inherently supernatural.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, he was just a cop that had a terrible life and became a serial killer.
If you had said ice cream truck driver, I would have lost my mind.
That would have been amazing.
I would have lost my mind. All right. The answer to my trivia question is a screwdriver. A screwdriver. Yes. And I don't mean the kind with orange juice. So anyway, everybody, thanks as always for watching Constantine Discussion. Sure hope you enjoyed it. And if you are watching this on the separate video, we will see you again next week. And if you're watching this on the lengthy video with all the things, we will still continue to see you because we have a couple more shows to do. Thanks for watching. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Steve Baxi.
Oh, that was a fun one to talk about, Steve.
Yes, that was great.
Boy.
That show puts me in a good mood every week.
I really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Yes, I love the fact that I get to be on the show with you, so thanks for that.
I
wish Eric was here too, though, because I know he's probably loving this too.
I do too. Yeah, if he's had time to catch up. Yeah, I haven't talked to him in a couple weeks about it. I need to call him and see if he's still watching it, because it's great. It's great. I'm just stoked that it's probably going to stick around. Oh boy, that's exciting.
And keeping the cast, keeping the continuity, everything, and maybe even just calling it Hellblazer would be really cool. Because you could be a Hellblazer fan just by watching the show.
Yeah, and and don't you love it when when superhero stuff works that way, where like you don't have to read the comics because they're getting it so right. I mean, I feel like that. I guess the go-to I always used to go to was like the '90s Fox X-Men cartoon, where back then you could watch that, and it didn't matter if you read the comics because you knew enough about X-Men. You could say I'm an X-Men fan.
Yeah, exactly. We get that so rarely, but now that it's happening at least a little bit with Constantine, that's great.
I'd say that for the most part, Marvel Cinematics got that going on.
Yeah, that's true. I guess Marvel Cinematic is almost a different animal though, because it's a film thing. They're making the films they're making films that are purposely comic book, and you have to watch them as if you're reading comics. So it's almost like it's forcing you into that, unlike taking a little bit of a different route.
I don't know if I 100% agree with that. I mean, I think it is like reading comics, but I think that if you make it a big shared universe and you put all those characters together, it's kind of, I would argue maybe it's the only way to do it.
That's true, and I think you're doing it fine. It's just a matter of like, to be a fan of Marvel by just watching the movies is just inherently a little bit different than being a fan of Constantine and being a fan of Hellblazer, because there's a lot of differences that are there. They just make you think like you're a comic book fan, and that's good. It's just the type of fan you become, the type of knowledge you have, would still be fundamentally different in a lot of regards.
Oh yeah, that's true. Well, let's go ahead and go on to Arrow. I don't want to save it all the way for last. So we'll go ahead and do it now. We'll get you good and riled up before we do Gotham.
Okay.
And I guess
good, bad, neutral. That's how that's going.
Okay, well, I don't feel the need to even have you on the program anymore, Steve. So I'm just gonna drop you off right now, and I'll give my 3 cents on Arrow and on Gotham. I can't wait to hear how you feel about this one, or you elaborate on how you feel about this one.
Because I think you've heard it plenty of times tonight.
Give me just a second here. I just got to make sure that I watched this several days ago, so I'm just refreshing myself for a moment on what actually happened in this. This was let's see, is this Uprising, or was this a different?
This is Uprising.
This is Uprising. Okay. Just wanted to make sure that I had. For a minute, I thought I had my notes about a different episode. I was like, have I already done this? Okay. Anyway, so, excuse me. This is what it's like doing 6 of these at once. Okay, here we go. Steve's got it all figured out, though. Steve's good.
I am organized to a fault, so.
Hey, I'm organized. I had it in the right spot. I just was afraid for a second that I had the wrong notes. Anyway,
I wasn't saying you aren't organized. I'm saying I am obsessively organized.
Okay. All right. Well.
Yeah, my clothes are color-coded.
Nice.
And my calendar has like 6 different algorithms going for it to make sure I'm on time for everything.
No way.
You should see my calendar. It's crazy. It's got like little notes for everything. It's got like 6 bits of information.
Wow.
It's arranged and coded in such a way so I know just by the color what I'm doing that day.
You'll have to give me some pointers, and I'll take like if I took 5% of what you're doing, I'd probably be more organized.
It's a pain, but I mean it helps. So.
Anyway, okay, so we gotta try to do like 2 or 3 more really mundane topics before we finish the show tonight, Steve. So we need to we need to throw in the weather in there at some point, and we need to say something about like going to a family gathering somewhere in here. Okay, are you ready for Arrow?
I am. Yes, I've been ready all week.
Are you folks ready for Arrow? Okay, here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to Arrow Discussions. I am Captain Logan.
Terrible. I mean, Steve. Yeah. Steve Baxi.
And today we're going to talk about the 12th episode of season 3, which is Uprising. This came out, of course, last Wednesday. I guess the show airs on Wednesday. And
Wednesday, February the 4th.
It's been a few days since I've seen this, so and we just did a bunch of other discussion shows. So I'm going to try to refresh myself about what happened in this. If you've not been watching the main crisis video, Steve's been having a crisis himself about how bad he thinks this episode is, and we can't get through one video without him wanting to jump to Arrow and talk about how much he didn't like it this week. So, if you really, really like this season of Arrow and you really like this episode, you think we've been too hard on it, you're either going to really enjoy Steve saying a bunch of stuff you don't agree with, or you're going to cry yourself to sleep. But anyway, so you may not want to watch. You may just have to turn it off now. everybody else that has felt a little bit like we have might feel a little bit more vindicated after they hear what Steve has to say. I'm excited to see what Steve has to say, so let's just get straight into it. Steve, what do you have to say?
Oh boy, this is so bad. I have no idea to begin. Okay, if I was doing this on my channel and YouTube wasn't a Nazi for copyrights, I would have the clip playing from the second to last, or I believe it was maybe the last episode of season 1, where Tommy walks into Malcolm's office and Malcolm reveals that he's gonna basically destroy the Glades.
Yeah.
And I say this because there's a very particular line in that scene, and it's also one of the best episodes of the series. Malcolm says that this city is beyond saving. They deserve to die the way she died. He makes it explicit that this is not for any cause whatsoever, aside from the fact that he is very vengeful and he thinks everyone in the city has failed him personally. Yeah. It's revenge. He makes no bones about it. Now, in this episode, we've got Thea saying, and I couldn't get through her dialogue. I kept interrupting her, telling her that she's wrong, because she says, well, I don't care that he killed 502 people because he was there for me when I needed him. What? I can't believe that she thinks she's a good person for that. There's no way to sympathize with her anymore, and there was no way to sympathize with Laurel 2 episodes ago. So that's 2 characters that are gone. The moment Roy agreed with her, he's no longer sympathetic either. Yeah. Because he's justifying mass murder.
Yeah, and so the show is almost behind her, and I've been really suspicious about that all season, because the show keeps just playing her like another normal character, not someone that's been manipulated into turning kind of crazy and evil and being really corrupted. You could get her to a corrupted place like Malcolm's been corrupting her. I don't know that the show even thinks that's what it's been doing. Like I think it's trying to play it like Malcolm's got a point or something.
Yeah, they keep playing this episode as if Malcolm is not evil Batman. Malcolm is misunderstood Punisher. They act like this guy had a cause. He was doing what Arrow was doing. He just went about it in a different way. We can't attack him for that. Except that this guy deliberately killed 503 people because he didn't like them. For no justification. He admits to himself that I did this for revenge, and people are sympathizing with him, and that makes no sense. Felicity's the most likable character in this episode because she's understanding how absolutely ludicrous it is to even talk about working with him.
And then, and we'll talk about this later, but I just gotta tack this on real fast, and then Oliver shows up at the end, and I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, let's talk about how stupid this is for a second. So Malcolm's plan is Ra's al Ghul is going to kill me, so I'm going to manipulate Oliver into dueling Ra's and clearing both of us. Now, we talked about how contrived and terrible that plan is in The Climb. So now let's just talk about this. Malcolm is a student of Ra's al Ghul. The big quote thrown out in this episode is that only the student has hope of defeating the master. Malcolm's the student.
Yeah!
There's no reason Malcolm couldn't have just killed him. And if you're saying Malcolm can train Oliver, then Malcolm should have killed him in the first place.
And at the very least, Oliver should be saying, okay, why don't you do it? Or here's an idea, because there's no talk about how it's gotta be done in some sort of like traditional bout or something like it was when they were on the precipice, right? Why can't Oliver and Malcolm just team up, train together, and then go kill him as a team? Like if Oliver's gonna work with him, and I'm with Felicity where she's like, no, you can't trust him, and like that whole scene where he's being cordial I think that's word's not too strong. When he's being cordial to Malcolm in his apartment, just standing there with him, and I couldn't even believe that. Like, what is going on? Okay, I said we talk about it later. I guess we're talking about it right now.
Who do they think he is? What?
I don't know.
I don't understand when Malcolm went from being this evil, manipulative mastermind, or not even a mastermind, from being this evil, vengeful, spiteful person that created the foundation for what Oliver was fighting against, to now being some kind of sympathetic character, because he's not. He's not sympathetic in the least.
Here's what's really baffling to me is that I don't know that he's inconsistent. It almost seems like it's just the way everybody else is talking about him, because he tells...
yeah.
Well, because he has that scene where he tells Thea that he's not a good person. Right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like I'm just saying...
Everyone else is just reading him wrong.
Isn't that weird? It's like everybody's reading him wrong, and I don't know that he's really ever changed all that much.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, part of the problem with Malcolm, again, has been that, like, his whole plan doesn't make sense, but that's completely different than other people thinking that they can work with him, or thinking that he had a point in the first place. That whole thing with Oliver deciding to train with him, or working with him just until they can beat Roz, that doesn't make any sense. Not just because Malcolm could have killed him in the first place, not simply because Oliver's principles don't line up with this guy, but because there were all of these unsung questions and all of this weird continuity where I don't know who knows what at this point.
Oh, yeah,
does
true.
Does Thea know that Roy is Red Arrow? We know Captain Lance does. How does Lance not know Oliver is Green Arrow?
How
does his sister not know Green Arrow?
I had that
Especially
too.
when they come back on the same day, like... I don't know where anyone is standing, and I'm expected to just go with it like they're doing this weird Karate Kid prophecy kind of thing of, well, I'll give you some kind of magical quote, and this will be your guiding light. It doesn't make any sense on even that level.
You know how at the beginning of the season I said that we are this season plotting scene to scene? It's still that way. That's never changed. And we were talking about Flash earlier this evening. We were doing that show, and this is even worse in that whole coin flip thing I was talking about, where we just say, okay, we've decided now that this character gets to know this thing, and then we'll pretend like there's a logic to it, and like that character came to it through, ingenuity and perceptiveness and stuff. Lance is both smart and stupid in the same scene, because when he sees Roy, he's like, well, I've seen you shooting arrows. You can't just put on a mask and a voice synthesizer and me not know that you're Red Arrow. And then I say, you know that Felicity used to work with Oliver during the time when she was, like during a time when he was still around and being Green Arrow. How do you not know that and that's just one example of a reason that Lance should know that Oliver is Arrow. And yeah, you can say that maybe he knows that he's pretending not to, but I don't buy that. I don't think that is the case at all. And when they finally make it a giant reveal, you know what's going to happen? I would not put it past this season right now, and I know we're being really harsh on this, but it's not working. I'm sorry. It's all falling apart. There are things I like about this episode, and I will mention them briefly because that's how long it will take. And I don't think I disliked it as much as Steve until Steve started talking, and then it all came rushing back to me because I've been thinking about other shows, and now I'm like, oh yeah, let's get into this. So I would not put it past this season, Steve, for us to get to the end of the season, and it is not finding out that Sarah is dead that is the thing that gives Lance the heart attack, but finding out that Oliver Queen is Arrow. That's where it's going.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
That's probably...
But I may not be kidding. I would not put it past this. I think they could go there, and I think they will play it really dramatic, and they will want us to have tears welling up in our eyes, and I can't take it seriously right now, man.
No. I mean, there's nothing to it, I mean, I feel like, and one of my rewrites for the season is now copy Andy Diggle's Daredevil. And Andy Diggle's Daredevil is terrible. But it's nowhere near as bad as this, almost to the point where Andy Diggle could improve this story.
It's not terrible.
Just having Oliver kill Roz and take over the league.
Oh yeah, that would be pretty cool. Well, that's the thing, is that not only are they doing a lot of things that just have characters people not acting like people, and characters not acting like who we used to be told they were, and acting completely contrary to what I thought their worldviews were, but also they're not being very creative in a lot of cases as well. So really, you're gonna have like a month-long you're gonna have a cliffhanger. Make us wait a month to find out how Oliver gets back from the dead, and then it's just gonna be, he got lucky that he got picked up right after he fell off of a thing that I'm doing a lot of reading from. Somebody sent me a forum where some people were talking about Oliver's just miraculous coming back from the dead thing, and everybody that I'm reading is in agreement that no one could survive that. And
they made it really clear that he was dead.
Yeah, they made it really clear, and you can say comic book logic, you can say its own internal logic. It's not consistent. They want this to be a somewhat more grounded thing where, yes, there are things that you can do in this universe that you can't do in the real world, and I'm not talking about superpowers, where there is some comic book physics, but in the universe that we're given here, nobody should be able to survive that. And
no.
So it had to have been Lazarus Pit or something, and I cannot believe the whole thing with Stephen Amell saying, oh, it's not Lazarus Pit, as if it's some other cleverer thing. Right?
I mean, I would still be satisfied if they just said Soul Taker Sword, but they didn't even say that. They said that he was barely alive and they nursed him back to health.
I'm not buying it.
That's ludicrous. That's
and here's the thing.
Beyond ludicrous. We're talking about a universe where Roy Harper can break Arrow's leg and he spends an entire episode limping.
Yeah.
We're talking about an episode or an episode where Laurel can't go without being treated to a cut because it will scar. There's obviously some kind of actual medical, at least pseudo logic going on.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that he can be stabbed through the chest, the side, and fall off a cliff and survive?
And I want to I want to elaborate a little bit and or just reinforce this point. I'm not complaining just because it's not realistic or even believable. I mean, I care about believable in a fiction over realistic. The bigger problem, I think, is that it's just not like a satisfying conclusion to that, right? Like,
yeah,
like it's just even if you could be made to buy it somehow. Okay, then what about that? Who cares? And it's like I said last episode, and I know we're rehashing things a little bit here, but it's even more infuriating because he's already back in costume. Why? I mean, like I said, last episode. So like we bring him back, and now I can just kind of assume that he'll be able to survive anything. I mean, like you take all of the danger and the tension out of really anything that ever happens to him now after this, until you regain my trust, and I realize that we've got writers again that have decided that consequences really do happen to our protagonist. Oh boy, that's super rough.
We're to this point where if they decapitate him, I'm sure they can find a way to bring him back.
Yeah, they'll just say that his head was still
nothing is too ludicrous. There's rumors going around that John Diggle
takes some
John Diggle is actually Jon Stewart. I wouldn't put it past the show to say that he's actually Jon Stewart and we were calling him by the wrong name the entire series, and that's all your setup is. That's consistent with how badly written this whole season's been.
Yeah. Dying of Laurel Lands. So I want to go through some notes if you don't mind, Steve. First of all, let me throw out some stuff that I like. I like that. I like the thing you said about Felicity. I was all on board right in the middle when they finally came together and decided, no, we're not going to work with Merlin. That's a horrible idea. I even kind of like how that was kind of done off screen, where there was an argument, and then finally you see Diggle bringing the message, and I don't know what Diggle's going to say, and then when Diggle says, we've decided to refuse to work with you, for a minute I wasn't sure if he was like on his own or if that's actually what the consensus of the group was. I kind of liked that there for a minute, but then it was all kind of deflated by Oliver at the end, spewing nonsense for easy drama, really. But
I like that scene.
I like that.
The only thing that deflates it for me is that there shouldn't have been an argument in the first place.
Why?
Because there's no reason to defend Malcolm whatsoever. The whole argument
I get that.
is Roy being crazy.
Yeah, but at that point, I don't know. I thought. Yeah. Okay, you're right. No. The argument about Malcolm is not really a bad guy. You're right. That's problematic. The idea of maybe we need his help. That's okay. Like, we can argue about that.
Okay, yeah, I can buy that.
I mean, that's
okay.
Because that's not the only argument there, and the main argument there. I mean, I just think you're putting a little bit too much weight on that over the argument of, well, he's Brick is taking over the city, and we need help, and maybe we have to have an uneasy alliance. Frankly, I would have liked the uneasy alliance to play out. I am saying that I don't want to contradict myself. I am saying that I like that they refused to work with him. At the same time, if they had felt like, okay, we have to, but then after that, we've seen these kinds of uneasy alliances before, and these are people that have in the past done the wrong thing to do the right thing. I mean, this is not Barry Allen we're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I could be made to be okay with going either direction, and I like where they went for a minute, and then I think they deflated it at the end.
Yeah, and I mean, we got this in the comments last week. There is a sense of urgency with what Brick's doing, so I can buy up to a point that Malcolm's their only hope. I just can't buy that anyone would think of him as anything except a last resort.
Yeah, exactly. But you also have to give Malcolm a good enough reason to care about stopping Brick, and they tried that by forcing in this whole Brick's actually the person that killed his wife thing, which feels very retroactive, very flimsy, and came out of nowhere. I liked the Brick stuff because it was directly related to Arrow, only in that he's found a way to ruin everything Arrow has accomplished, and that Oliver allegedly being dead, his life would mean nothing because the city would be, because everything he accomplished goes to rot because of Brick. That's all we needed in connecting him to any of our characters. The way that didn't work. I don't think that worked. You get to the end, and I'm just going to read my notes here. Why would killing Brick back in the flashbacks with Merlin, if Merlin had actually killed Brick and not the person that he killed thinking that was the person that killed his wife, why would that have made any difference in the path that he took? Because he has this line where he's like, if I had actually killed Brick in the first place, it might have changed everything. Why? I don't understand that.
It would have changed nothing.
It still wouldn't have...
under the impression he did it in the first place.
Yeah, it still wouldn't have made Merlin feel any better. He'd still go on his crusade to fix the city, I would assume. I don't think it matters who it is. And he also says that he... that killing that guy didn't make him feel any better. So is he implying that if he'd killed the real person, that somehow fate would have allowed him to feel better? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's the Spider-Man 3 thing of, it doesn't matter that he didn't kill Sandman. The fact is he thought he did.
Yeah.
And that doesn't change anything. There's a character arc there that had to be dealt with.
Yeah. Part
of the thing with Brick being the real killer is it again deflates season 1, which now I'm thinking is the only good season of the show that's consistent.
Yeah.
Part of the reason that it hurts that so much is it's not a Joe Chill thing. It could be anyone, or it could be Joe Chill, and it works either way. The problem is season 1 was all about the actions of one reflect on the actions of everyone. It doesn't matter who killed Malcolm's wife, because the city created a place where someone could do that, and so the city itself, the collective, failed a person.
Yeah.
And then a person has to rise up and fix that. It's about individuals fixing an institution. The moment you put a label on it, the moment you make it a definitive character, it deflates that whole idea of we have to perpetuate behavior in a city as opposed to get revenge on a singular person. It really undermines that whole arc. It really destroys what Malcolm and Oliver were saying in the first place, was that first season of we hurt individuals because it's what they do to the culture. And Brick doesn't do anything to the culture. Brick being the killer doesn't add anything to it. It detracts because having a face to it destroys that whole case.
The only way it would work at all, I think, is if Brick was already this big giant mob boss guy. And that, but he wasn't at that point. But I mean, like that might have helped a little bit, where like he's a personification of what's wrong with the city, not just
or if Brick did more than just kill his wife. Like if Brick was part of, like, I mean, this would be retroactive again, but if Brick was someone that, I don't know, robbed Thea or killed someone in Diggle's family, or he had a connection to more than just Malcolm to show that he is a bigger thing, that he in himself is an institution.
Yeah. I want to go through a couple more notes, if you don't mind, real quick, Steve.
Yeah, sure.
How is Felicity not suspicious that Merlin has a link into the Arrow Cave when he just shows up. They're not questioning at all how the heck Malcolm knows that Brick killed his wife. He shows up at the moment that just after Felicity has discovered this on her own, and then Malcolm shows up and he's like, yep, I know that Brick is the one that killed my wife, even though I didn't know that for like years and years and years. And that sound means we're all out of time, but we'll mention a couple more things here real quick. But yeah, so Brick, so Malcolm just conveniently shows up and knows this, and Felicity does not put two and two together. He
when
knows
they put a camera in there, and
that's
isn't
a
it
good
really
question.
convenient that he's tuning in just when they say that?
Also, does that laptop or does that monitor have to be on in order for him to see what because we see it from like the monitor's perspectives? I just wonder how that camera works. So Roy is really gullible.
Yes.
You were talking about that earlier. The line is, he cares about this. So you're talking about Malcolm. He cares about the city. He saved Thea for no ulterior motive. No ulterior motive? How can you be
Did
sure
he
of
miss the whole
that?
thing where he used Thea to kill Sarah?
So saving his own daughter means he cares about the city somehow.
I really just want to go to Roy and play this clip
Also-
with Malcolm where he says they deserve to die. They
But
don't.
more than
they
that, though.
can't be saved.
Yeah, but more than that, let's just stay into this season for a minute. You remember how earlier you said that you're not sure who knows what about whom right now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm very lost about whether or not Roy is aware that Thea was brainwashed to kill Sarah. Is Roy in the loop on this, or are we keeping it away from him? Because, if he knows that, Malcolm clearly did have an ulterior motive. It was so that he could use his daughter to kill Sarah to set up Oliver to try to kill Roz, even though he is, I gotta finish this, even though he is clearly more equipped to kill Roz himself, and we're proving it by having him be the one that trains Oliver to now go ahead and do that. What is going on? What is this show now?
It's a cartoon now.
It has become a parody of itself, and I hate going that far, but I think it has. Good Lord. Let's see here.
I can't take anyone seriously when they tell me the season's good, because what are they watching? Explain it to me, please. What is it about the season that has any fan base?
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's performances. Maybe it's still fun to see these guys in costume. But I can't take it seriously right now. Wow.
How far are they fallen?
I like that Malcolm in the flashbacks is still has a very Batman Begins parallel background, and he's still kind of evil Batman. I know you said that he's not quite that now, but I still maintain that they're not inconsistent with him. They're just inconsistent with how everybody's reacting to him. He did have an ulterior motive.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, John Barrowman's just a good actor too, so he's still fun to watch despite what they give him to do.
Wow, this is a lot worse than I realized watching it. The more I'm looking at it,
and
this is
I'm
not
not
just
sure
Steve
if it's the
swaying
worst
me.
episode, but that whole Sarah Lance voice mimic thing is still up there.
Yeah, that's rough. So Lance is now on track to find out that Sarah's still alive. It better happen next episode. I'm like, they're dragging that out, and like last year, Eric and I were praising the show really hard in the first half of the season for doing stuff way before we ever expected it to subvert our expectations, to not string us along. And I think it decided that it was moving too fast and it didn't have enough of a story to tell. So this season it must start stretching us along more than it ever has. My goodness.
Yeah.
My goodness. Okay, so do you have any good quotes?
I like Lance's line a lot when he's talking to Roy, and Roy's got the voice changer, and Lance says, "Look, I've seen you wearing a red hoodie. I've seen you shooting arrows at people. You think I don't recognize you with a little extra leather and lace?"
Yeah, but it still makes me go, well, you should know that Oliver...
Yeah, exactly. It's still a giant problem, but it's a nicely written line, if nothing else.
So Diggle has this, what I think is a really cool line that, once again, is deflated by the ending, and it almost feels like two different people wrote this episode. how do we get this great line from Diggle, and then at the end, Oliver thinks that he can somehow justify still working with Malcolm? I guess just under the logic of anything Malcolm says must be the truth. Still. Like, well, Malcolm said that we couldn't put him behind bars, so we're not going to try that. Malcolm says that I don't remember whose idea it was, but Malcolm thinks that that training me is the only way to defeat Rod. So I'm not even going to suggest that he go off and do it. I guess that's what's got to happen.
The superhero parody of Malcolm in the Middle.
Diggle says, I love everything about that. Diggle said that. Oh boy, I just love. Oh man, you're not the boss of me now, and you're not. So Diggle, little known fact, that's a They Might Be Giant song. Diggle says, I don't know if we made the right choice, but I know we did the right thing. Apparently Oliver no longer capable of discerning the difference between those two things. But I like that line a lot. I mean, it's a cool line. It's a first season Diggle line.
Diggle being the voice of reason.
Yeah.
That was a part of that character that made him really interesting. That was the fact that the bodyguard is the one that's giving the moral wisdom, and we lose a lot of that. But every now and then we do get those lines that do kind of work. I think it was this season where we had that episode where they go over to Diggle's house for dinner.
Yeah, that was the Thanksgiving thing, yeah.
Yeah, the Cupid episode I like more than you do. But I mean, there's moments in the season where Diggle is Diggle, and then we have moments where he's bragging about Oliver killing people.
Well, real quick, let's go ahead and finish up. We're out of time. Steve, do you have a trivia question? I did not come up with anything for this one from the episode. I should have gone back and grabbed something, and I just didn't. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Mine is a question about Oliver dying, because that's what he would have done in this show had the writers known anything about writing. The question is, and this is from an actual writer, in what issue of Chuck Dixon's, that's a good writer, by the way, in what issue of Chuck Dixon's run on Green Arrow was Oliver Queen killed?
Okay, well, go ahead and just give us the answer, because we've got to kick out here.
The answer is 101.
101 Dalmatians.
101 Oliver Queen deaths.
Well, everybody that's watching this as a separate video, thanks for being here. We sure appreciate it. I hope we didn't hurt your feelings too much, but it's just the way we feel about it. And leave your comments. We're looking forward to reading them. We will see you again next week. Odds that this show finds its footing again, Steve?
I'm hoping. I mean, I'm sorry for being so strongly opinionated about it.
Well,
it's just a matter of I really liked this show.
No return?
And then it really degenerated, and now I think it's possible to recover, but they clearly haven't set anything up for it.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is, has it jumped the shark? Like, has it gone so far that these characters just aren't themselves anymore?
For Laurel and Thea, yes. For everyone else, there's a redemption story possible. For Laurel and Thea, I think some of what they've done is unforgivable at this point.
When you say redemption story, you're implying that the show would have to acknowledge that these characters have done anything wrong, and I don't know that it will.
That's true. If someone would eventually come on board and realize they've made mistakes in writing, you could fix this. But even if you were emotionally intelligent or intelligent enough to know you screwed up with Laurel and Thea, it still wouldn't save them.
The show's still a success. It's still getting good ratings. I don't see new blood coming on board.
That's true. And I mean, part of the good stuff about season 1 and 2 is that they did have a lot of good, different writers episode to episode.
Yeah.
So there was lots of creative input. And this season, not so much.
Well, they may have done that in an attempt to keep it from being as convoluted as it was last season, but the convoluted bits started really early this season.
Yeah, it did. And I mean, even when season two got bad on its second half, it was still enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
You know, there were still people and they were still having fun. Now it's just a matter of, in order to have fun, you have to ignore what everyone is doing scene to scene.
Well, that was more of an issue of logic and not being able to keep up with the continuity, and me not buying that a character was responsible for all of the things you said he planned. This season, it's mostly just people acting really out of character and not acting like people at all. Well, we're being redundant now. Let's go ahead and end off. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We sure appreciate it. We'll see you again next week. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Steve Baxi.
Whoa, okay, wow.
I kind of wish we saved Constantine for last, you know, end on an optimistic note.
Oh, boy, yeah. I did not realize that I felt that strongly about that until we started talking about it. Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
And again,
it was really hard to even just get the emotional strength to resist talking about it because this season makes me angry at this point.
Well, I think the deal for me was as I was going along, until you got Roy's whole thing, like you said, about how Malcolm is really just misguided, but, you know, he's not a bad person. I thought we were heading in an okay direction that episode. And, you know, I like that I don't hate Felicity right now, but...
Yeah, and I mean, she's clearly flip-flopping episode to episode,
yeah.
So I'm sure there's going to come something next episode where we reverse what we said this week.
Really, really interesting that they've let it get to where it's gotten. It's bizarre. It is just there's no other word for it. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and talk about Gotham now. This is our last show. We often start with Gotham, so we're gonna end with Gotham this time, and which is actually, now that I'm thinking about it, probably not the smartest or fairest thing in the world because Gotham airs when you see this probably tonight.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So we probably should have led with it, but
for anyone who doesn't know, it's actually 12 in the morning here. So this is Gotham Day.
Yeah, it's Gotham Day. So anyway, but obviously, if we can get this up, you know, as a separate video in time, people will get to see it. I hope everybody's been enjoying this. If you've been watching this whole show with us and hanging out with us for the last few hours, thanks a bunch. We sure appreciate it. Sorry it's not live. This has been interesting doing this not live. Less technical difficulties than usual. That's good.
Yeah, Skype is more reliable than Google Plus, but I wonder how much of a compliment that really is.
Well, wow, you're just on fire with the pot shots tonight, Steve. God, he's making fun of Arrow. He's making fun of Skype.
Hey, just be glad that I didn't take the ridiculously obvious joke of comparing the season to Dark Knight Rises, because that's totally what that episode was.
I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about it. Anyway,
not even as an insult, but that's totally Dark Knight Rises, is it not?
Yeah. Even if you don't have a problem with Dark Knight Rises, that's what it is. Yeah.
It's like season 1 Arrow of I don't have a problem with Batman Begins, but that's totally Batman Begins.
Well, isn't it fascinating that it's the 3rd season?
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if that was on purpose.
Can we somehow finagle season 2 to be Dark Knight?
We did it for like the first half. It was Dark Knight.
In what way?
In the sense that it was really good and constantly improving on itself.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, story-wise, because I mean, like, first season is, you know, Arrow Begins, and 3rd season it's Arrow Rises. So what is how do we make second season the Arrow Night? I guess it's the whole, like, I don't know. I can't think of a non-vague way to do it. I mean, like you know, he's you know, discovering himself as a hero. I guess people are accepting him more.
He's finding out his limitations.
In
a way.
Yeah, I guess there's a little bit of that. You have the whole...
Because he's dealing with superpowered people.
Yeah, you have... There's not really like a city ripping itself apart through fear plot, is there? Because it's pretty much just a big army of superhumans being sent up against it. I'm trying to find a way to compare Brother Blood to Joker, and I can't do it. And I can't really compare him to Harvey Dent either, even though he is a politician.
Maybe Ravager is a little bit Harvey Dent Two-Face in the sense that Slade kind of manipulated her, turned her into a different person.
But we didn't see her as that person. She was that way the whole time when we saw her.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know. So they've got Begins and Dark Knight Rises, but I don't know that Dark Knight. But yeah. In the sense that the first half is really, really good. Maybe you could say the second season has a couple of false starts. I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry, a couple of false endings. But I never.
Well, this season needs to end with Felicity and Oliver running away together, and next season, Roy Harper is the main character.
Oh, that's good. And then you could do like whatever Dark Knight 4 would have been.
Exactly.
That's a great idea. Yeah, and then we find out that Roy Harper isn't his real name.
Yeah, and it's actually Roy Arsenal
Harper. Yeah, it's Roy Arsenal Harper. Okay, we're gonna stop this now. We're gonna stop this right now. Okay, I'm putting up the Gotham screen. Arsenal Harper. All right.
Coolest parents ever, Roy Arsenal Harper.
Yeah, sounds pretty good. Did I ever tell you? quick anecdote. Did I ever tell you that Sarah and I, before we had our second kid, were kicking around a name, and I still can't decide if it was a joke or not. I'm still not sure. Sarah came up with this, and to this day, I don't know how much of a joke this really was. But Steve, you know how much I like Power Rangers Dino Thunder, yeah?
Yes, that's my favorite.
And you like Dino Thunder too. Now you know my favorite character in Dino Thunder, yes?
Tell me.
Zeltrax.
Oh, Zeltrax.
Love Zeltrax. Sarah wanted to name... Zeltrax is awesome!
Zeltrax is awesome.
He's awesome! And I mean, like, ultimately, what Zeltrax turned out to be was a little lame, but I like Zeltrax. Sarah, at one point, a couple of years ago, considered naming our second son Robert Zeltrax Williamson, my real last name.
You need to do that. You need a third kid, and you need to do that, and then you need a fourth kid that's the boss of all your kids, named Mesogog.
Mesogog, yeah. Well, see, the problem is, now that two of our kids are major horror characters, we have Jason and Freddy, and anytime
next one has to be Michael.
The next one has to be Michael, yeah. And that's
and
what we're
then
talking about
Ash
now.
at some point for Army of Darkness.
I don't like that name as a name.
Okay, that's fair. It's a Pokemon thing,
Michael
so.
we like a lot, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really care for that. Yeah, and then like, I don't know. It'd be weird because then like you'd get to Wednesdays and I have a really hard time not being like, this is the day we take Ash out. It's Ash Wednesday. Anyway.
So if you had a girl, would you name her Elsa?
Elsa? Oh,
Yeah,
from Dino Thunder. From Dino Thunder, yeah. Somebody really needs to take that character with like the zipper lip and be like, let it go. No, it would if we had a girl, the whole horror, and what's funny is we're not even horror fans, but we wanted to name our second kid Freddy, named after Sarah's great uncle Freddy, and then we were like, well, should we do that? Because the Jason, and then we decided, no, that's awesome, let's do that. If we had a girl, if we ever have a third child, and it's a girl, I'm pushing hard for Carrie.
I could see that.
Because Carrie is, and I mean, again, it's somewhat of an unfortunate name maybe, but Carrie is a major horror film character, but I also have a grandmother that I'm very close to, named Carrie, so we do it again, you know? But anyway, I don't know why we're talking about this right now. Let's go on to Gotham. Shall we? All right.
We shall. I mean, horror and Dr. Crane, so we're kind of there.
Yes, let's pretend like that was a segue that we did on purpose. All right.
Totally on purpose. What are you talking about? We had this mapped out.
Folks, thanks again for watching. We sure appreciate it. We are going to do our last show now and pretend like you just tuned in. Are you ready? Are you ready? Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to Gotham Discussions. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Steve Baxi.
Today, Steve and I are talking about the 14th episode of Gotham. Can you believe this show's been on already for 14 episodes? My goodness.
Really?
The fearsome Dr. Crane. And let's just jump straight into it, Steve. How'd you feel about the fearsome... Was Dr. Crane sufficiently fearsome enough for you, Steve? Go ahead.
So I liked last week's episode, and this episode, I felt like it showed its hand a little bit too early. Like,
on what?
There was an idea here. There was something really potentially interesting when we got this unnamed guy who's just Todd, and he's going around and he's doing these fear experiments, and we keep thinking that's Dr. Crane, that's Dr. Crane. Halfway through it, we see he has a kid named Jonathan.
Yeah.
And then that kind of soils it. But if we got to the end of this episode, or maybe the next episode, because it's a two-parter, and we found out Jonathan's the mastermind behind all of this in the first place, it could have been potentially really interesting.
Yeah.
And that's still possibly where it's going, as far as I've read with interviews. It's just the fact that we know that now hurts it a bit. But I mean, it's partly because it could have been a really cool reveal. The guy that they got to play Crane's dad is great.
He's great.
If it was a present-day live-action movie, he's Scarecrow. He's perfect. He's really good. And I mean, I like the idea. I like how weird and arbitrary some of his choices are, and that he's taking out the fear gland and he's testing people to their limits. And I think it's a really cool idea. I like that it's not just he's crazy to save the city. He's just curious. He's doing experiments. He's a scientist.
Although
I
will say that that's what it seems like they're pointing to. But I think they're keeping it ambiguous enough that we don't 100% understand his motivations yet.
Yeah, and that's true, and that's part of why, like, it did show its hand a bit too early, that there is something crazier behind this, and I wish that was more of a reveal. If if we were more concrete in that this is not what we think it is, and then we get the reveal of Jonathan being behind all of it, I think that would have been really cool.
Well, hey, I'm going to go this far. I don't think they, and honestly, and it's been a few days since I've watched this, so maybe I just didn't pick up on it. I didn't think that we could be 100% sure that that's exactly what's going on. But that Jonathan's behind the whole thing. Clearly he's involved, but where are you getting Jonathan's behind the whole thing?
Well, they've talked about it in interviews, so
okay.
I mean, they kind of spoiled that Jonathan's the mastermind behind this.
Okay,
and
see, this is why
way.
I'm careful to not keep up with too much production stuff. But I don't think you can get that from the episode, can you?
Not really.
Okay, okay.
There's a bit of it. They have that exchange, and it makes me wonder who the boss is, but it's probably... It's hard to say. It's been a couple days since I've seen it too.
It made me wonder too, but I wasn't making the leap saying, "Oh, he's behind it yet." I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's true.
So, just in case people are wondering where you're getting that from, I haven't kept up with production stuff. So,
okay, that's true. Yeah, maybe that's informing it a bit too much. But even so, I think just the potential mystery of it is interesting enough.
Well, hey, I'll say this: I wouldn't have called it this. I think the show has had that problem pretty hard. And if you're just watching this on TV and you're not doing a show on it like we are, and you're not looking at it on Hulu or whatever, you wouldn't know what the episode title is. So who cares? But they did this with the first episode with Harvey Dent too. Why is Crane's name in the title? He's not. Is he even called Dr. Crane anywhere in the episode?
No,
maybe,
they don't. They just keep calling him Todd.
See, I thought it would be. I'm with you in saying that it would have been cool if it was a reveal that it's Crane. You know what I mean? Just don't.
Yeah, that's true.
Don't put that in the episode title.
Crane from the beginning, and we just didn't reveal his name was something else, and that he was his dad. It could have still been pretty cool.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's strange. It almost feels like they fired the gun a little bit too quickly, or they didn't complete the thing through that mystery. But overall, the episode's kind of neutral. There's some fun stuff with Harvey potentially having a crush, and that scene where he's talking about he has a fear of dying alone in an alley and no one knowing his name was really good. Mm-hmm. Some of the stuff with Gordon and Leslie, as always, is forced, and I don't really like where that relationship's going, but I like their chemistry okay.
I don't agree with you. What's forced about it?
No, as in, the leap to the fact that they have a relationship already still isn't working.
Nope.
And then that scene at the end where she forces him to kiss him in front of the whole precinct, I really didn't like that.
Here's the thing. I didn't like that it had to be in front of everybody. I think that is... She clearly does not understand how Gotham works. Because if I were in Gordon's position, I would not want every cop in the precinct to know who I'm dating.
Yeah,
because
that's true.
Remember last episode when we had a cop that was bumping people off, and remember how Gordon has been a target a lot, and that he keeps painting a bullseye on his back, and that he keeps trying to change everything, and there's probably a lot of cops that want the status quo to stay the way it is. The last thing on earth you want is you got to be a vigilante about it. You don't want these people to know who you're dating. So no, that was dumb. But if the kiss from a couple episodes ago, that stupid kiss that we hated in the locker room, hadn't happened, everything that happens in this episode with those two, I think, is fine, except for kissing in front of the precinct.
Okay, yeah,
because
I agree with that.
I don't think it's a sudden. I don't think it's a sudden relationship like you said it was. She comes back, and it's not because they kissed. They just like each other. I don't think that kiss was completely. It doesn't matter. It was, it's a mulligan. It doesn't matter.
Thing, though, because we don't know anything about her, do we?
Not much, no.
She doesn't really have a character aside from having good chemistry with Gordon.
Not yet.
And I think it's rushed in that regard. So now that they're in a relationship, she is just a plot device to get us there. And I like the actress. I like the scenes they have together. But it's rushed to the sense that people don't just enter relationships that quickly, and it's really hard to buy that. It's really hard to buy that they see anything in each other aside from the chemistry that we see, and there's no character place for it.
I don't agree with you. They're just a couple of people that are attracted to each other that are starting out in a relationship that's not serious yet.
What does he like about her? That she's cute?
That's enough to start dating a person a lot of the time, is it not? I mean,
Yeah, that's fine. And they started with the kiss, but at this point we need something more than he thinks she's cute.
See, all I'm saying is if that kiss hadn't happened, I think that this seems like a kind of logical progression where they're attracted to each other and they're feeling each other out and just starting to maybe have a relationship. It's not serious yet. Again, the stupid kiss in front of the priest. Stop writing kisses in this show, okay? Quit. I'm with you. I want to know more about her. I want her to be more fleshed out too. I get that. But compare it to the Barbara thing, and he has much more of a reason to date this person.
Okay, that's fair. And I mean, if you were dating Barbara, then you'd have more reason to date Bullock at that point. But...
Yeah, I mean, okay, do they have things in... Yes, they're not spelling stuff out about it yet. Do they have to if it's clear enough? No. Is it clear enough? I don't know. Let's dissect it for a second. Shall we? Okay, so, what do they have in common? They both spent some time at Arkham, and we didn't see much of their relationship together there. They seem to have... I don't remember. Did they know each other besides the first time we saw them? Had they actually interacted before?
No.
Okay.
The first time they met
All
is
right.
after
Was the first time they
was
met.
assigned to investigate that incident.
Okay. All right. So there's that. So I don't know. They have that crazy job in common. They both seem to be a lot more optimistic than most of the people in that city. They both kind of have a little bit of a silver lining mentality, I would say. They're both not corrupt people that do their jobs well. No, it's surface, it's superficial so far. But I'm just saying that besides the whole stupid like passionate kiss that came out of nowhere in that locker room, I don't know that there's not that just we're attracted, let's explore isn't enough. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's okay. That's fair. It's that I can't get rid of the locker room kiss though, because then it just feels like she kisses anyone that she finds mildly interesting, and then she gets really pushy about it in this episode.
These people can't write relationship dramas. They think they're on the CW and they're on Fox, and I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not bad enough that I have a huge problem with it. It's just, it could be better.
It could be better.
It's still an enjoyable episode. I still think these last couple episodes have been better than what we've gotten for weeks. We haven't mentioned this yet, but the Maroni Penguin stuff I like. I love that scene where they're in the cabin and they're playing that game of Tell Us a Secret.
That's great. There's a lot of tension to that scene. My only big problem with it, and I've had this with a lot of episodes, right, is should have happened episodes ago.
Yeah.
Should have happened a lot of episodes ago. There's no reason that Maroni should have bought into anything Penguin was selling the last few episodes. With that whole... I still think it's inexcusable that when Penguin accidentally, and this was so weirdly written, accidentally wakes up and says he's got a date with Falcone, that Maroni didn't send anybody to follow him. I don't buy that. And the fact that Fish had to call him before he started thinking more seriously about it. Yeah, so we have stretched this out just because this was the episode where we wanted that to happen, not because we naturally got it there now. It could have been done because it could have been done well because Penguin is supposed to be really good at keeping secrets and manipulating people and keeping people from knowing stuff. I still like that Penguin makes mistakes. That's the thing I really like about this character. That he's really good at improvising and he's quick on his feet. And the thing in the car is hilarious. I mean, we are back to the dark comedy that I loved about the series so much that I feel like we've kind of lost a little bit. And that thing in the car where he's still begging for his life, calling Maroni on his cell phone while he's being crushed to death. Oh, I love that. It's fantastic. Yeah, and then he calls the crane operator and scares him away because Falcone will kill his family. That's hilarious. In a way, that too, Steve, is a fearsome crane. Coincidence? I think not. Oh. Sorry. I think these last couple episodes have sort of salvaged the series for me. I trust a little bit more now than I did a few weeks ago when we were doing ridiculous things with Falcone. Yeah. And what he knows and what he doesn't know. At the very least, now it's enjoyable. There's lines of dialogue, there's exchanges that are fun to watch. Sure. The acting is building the characters for us, and a lot of times that's okay, a lot of times it's a problem. In this show, it's sort of in the middle. Right now, but you got to remember that we have not gotten back to the Falcone stuff yet, and where they left us, I'm just saying that I don't know that I trust it anymore yet. I can only go as far as to say that I enjoyed this episode quite a bit, and that I am really intrigued by the Scarecrow stuff, and that I would have enjoyed the Penguin stuff a lot more if it had happened in an earlier episode. But I enjoyed it a lot here. I'm just saying that that is still hurting the credibility of a narrative that's acting like it's smarter than it really is. The Edward Nygma stuff is not working for me.
Yeah, I forgot about that. No, that's not great.
When we get to the end and he's been booted, which I don't know how he didn't get booted forever ago, but when he gets booted for constantly messing around with dead bodies, which I think is really funny, that he's just so curious. And this is an episode about curiosity, right? That's kind of cool. It's about fear and curiosity, and the relationship between those two things. Okay, that's cool. We get to the end, and the only reason that Nygma gets to be brought back into the precinct is because he set that guy up to the medical examiner guy to get fired. Okay, so the medical guy gets fired. That is a completely unrelated incident to what got Nygma booted. Also, I don't understand how that gets him. What am I missing?
Well, I think it's that they only have Nygma and the medical examiner, so if they're both gone, they have no one to check evidence.
That's dumb.
Yeah.
You can't, I mean, they bring cops in from other cities. That's dumb.
Yeah.
There are only two people.
It gives us the convenience to have Leslie work there.
Yeah, but I don't know. But that's not how they play. They didn't play it like it was desperation. They played it like somehow the medical examiner having done a horrible thing, with the what was it, like a body part they found?
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of dead body parts, and they said that he stole them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they played it like somehow that vindicated Nygma. That's how I read it. Was that like somehow Nygma didn't do anything wrong because this guy did something a lot wronger. I don't understand that. That's how it played.
That was strange.
That's how it played for me. If anybody's got a better read on it, leave a comment. I don't know. That's how it read to me. I don't know. That was weird.
Yeah, the guy that plays the Riddler I really like, but every time they give him something to do, it's just weird and awkward for the sake of being weird and awkward. It doesn't necessarily make any sense.
I'm with you. They're slowly trying to progress that girl that he's hitting on to like him more. I don't know why she's liking him. I do like her performance a lot. I think she's trying to play like maybe she is just as disturbed as he is, and we just haven't seen her home life yet. And
it's a little Harley Quinn-esque. Yeah.
I am predicting that there's going to be something there, because she seems potentially also, if not unhinged, a little bit out there. You know what I mean? A little bit detached herself, maybe. So we'll see. Hey, real quick, why don't we go ahead and go to quotes and stuff? Actually, did you give us a worst moment?
Worst moment was I think it was the kiss in front of everybody, the public kiss that Leslie made him do.
That's fair. Frankly, we didn't even straight up do best moments, so we'll do that too. For me, it's that car crush scene. I think that's fantastic.
Mine's the Maroni Penguin playing the game in the cabin. I thought that was amazing.
That was my second. Really liked that. Okay, my worst moment is Ed just getting reinstated. I'm hoping I missed something. That bothered me. Also, here's a minor one. Is there some reason that Jim had to leave his apartment just because he was working at Arkham? They play it like he moved out or something?
Yeah, it's weird. And why does he have that house? I'm confused. If that's Barbara's house, and they're no longer seeing each other enough for him to date another girl.
Yeah.
What's the state of that house? Does he own it partly?
Well, it's a penthouse apartment, so we don't know if they're renting or how that works, but.
Yeah, that's just weird. And then he constantly calls to Barbara when he gets back.
I don't understand. He keeps doing that. Every time he walks in, he's like Barbara, and it's like a routine thing, and they're just not communicating intention very well in the script or the directing. I don't understand what's going on there.
Yeah. And also we didn't mention the Bruce and Gordon stuff, but I did like that quite a bit.
It was okay. I got to see where it's going, because it reads potentially like trying to stall stuff out to keep dragging things along a little bit, where like because Gordon investigating Bruce Wayne's parents' murder is a huge obviously departure from the background of the comics. Now I find myself wondering if this isn't some kind of like excuse to try to get us closer to some sort of status quo of what Batman's background is. It's too early to say. I don't know what we're doing with that. I like that Bruce is kind of starting to go it alone more, and we're obviously going to push him more in a direction of starting to get hardened and become what he would have to become to be Batman, I guess.
And it's all fueled by him wanting to investigate. So I think that base is pretty cool. Moving forward, if he released Gordon from the Promise like he did, and it's just Bruce uncovering more of the mystery, I think it does ultimately work. And then Gordon would still have to fight the city the way he wants to, but there might even be a bit of an antagonistic thing going of, is Gordon's methods getting in the way of what Bruce wants to find out?
Well, I guess the question is, what was the point of having Gordon investigate that if they were just going to ultimately have him go, you know what, you haven't actually been working on that, dude. You know what I mean? Like I don't see a clear direction for that. And so I'm just waiting to find out what it is.
Bruce didn't think he had the means or the ability to do it before. And then we slowly grew him into being an obsessed guy. And so now he feels he can do it by himself. And that he's been forced to be alone.
I need to give it another watch before I can be confident that that's really what they're doing.
Because I don't know. I feel like they've been doing that since we got the Cap thing, since Alfred's taught him how to fight, since he's been running around the city being chased by an assassin.
No, that's fine with Bruce.
Trying to be more independent.
That's fine. I'm more worried about the Gordon thing. Why hasn't Gordon been working harder on that case?
Yeah, well, he has though, because he's been hitting up Falcone the whole series, but then he got shifted to Arkham for doing it.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Well, part of the problem is that, again, we just watch a million things, and this is an ongoing story, and I've not gone back and rewatched it. Okay, fine. Whatever. We'll see where that stuff goes. Quotes. I had a lot of quotes for this episode. I thought this was a pretty good script for narrative. Sorry, I'm tired. For dialogue writing. I love Maroni. A bird in the hand is 9/10 of the law. And then Penguin's expression is priceless.
Oh, it's perfect. I was laughing for minutes after seeing that. It was great.
That was fantastic. Bullock, I don't start drinking until noon. The only good thing anyone can say about Barbara comes from Selena when she says she's got some really nice stuff. I liked just the line delivery of Maroni's "I'm deceptively quick for a big guy."
Yeah,
that was just really well. Yeah, I liked that a lot.
That's just a great actor. So
the Cranes have a scale for fear.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, I love that. I find their version of Scarecrow, even though we don't know much about him. The fact that he's just studying fear all to start off, the guy that they got to playing his dad, I think all that's already interesting, and then we're not doing yet the straight up, he looks like a scarecrow, so he forced himself into being one.
Yeah. Well, and I'm assuming that this is the origin of the fear toxin.
Yeah, it seems like it. It's hard to say, because he injects them with something that makes them afraid.
But that's not
what I don't know what.
But that's not what I mean. He's trying to figure out like he's stealing stuff like the fear, like the gland that the fear gland. I think he's probably trying to develop fear toxin.
Yeah, maybe. That'd be interesting, and his motivation behind that would also be interesting if they play it off well.
Yeah, we'll see. I just I thought that was really cool. Do you have a trivia question?
I do. In the comics, in Scarecrow Year 1, what do they reveal that Jonathan Crane is afraid of?
My question is, what section of Gotham did Maroni offer Falcone episodes back as part of their truce, which was brought up again here in a nice bit of continuity? I was kind of impressed with them for bringing that back. Any other notes you have before we finish off and give the answers to our trivia question, Steve, that we didn't cover?
Just that I wish the show would do more of... let's do territorial mob stuff.
Yes.
Because the moment they try convoluting this stuff into a conspiracy Gordon investigates, it doesn't work. But when we're just hanging out with Penguin and Falcone, or Penguin and Maroni, and they're trying to play off of each other, and they don't have anything else to juggle, it really works.
Yeah. Less is more in this case. I didn't like the cliffhanger with Fish.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
It's just, okay, she's about to fight a guy. Why am I supposed to they keep playing it like I'm supposed to care about her well-being for some reason, and
yeah, she's not a well enough developed character for us to care yet. She's just weird.
And they keep doing it with Penguin, and you could say, well, Penguin's morally reprehensible. Why do you care about what happens to him? Because he's fascinating. He's a character study. He's got a really interesting psychology, and it's just really interesting to see people that are great at anything, even if they're horrible people, doing the stuff that they're great at, and that's a rise to power thing. Fish is a cartoon character, and I like her as a cartoon character, but if we keep... I do. I mean, a lot of people don't like that. I think it's fine. But she
I thought it worked earlier in the season, and it doesn't work so much now because we have to keep doing things at the expense of her character.
She has to stay the archetype or the stereotype, right? Like we can't spend too much time with her. And I think she's a character, and she's not a character.
Yeah, and I'm still kind of curious to know what's with her and Bullock, not because it's interesting, but just because it's hanging there now.
Yeah. Well, I don't think here's the thing. I don't think there's necessarily anything to them so much as they were trying to maintain some continuity because they got along well at the beginning. I don't want to read too much into that. I think that's just she and Bullock had a good working relationship, and now Bullock feels bad because I guess he knew her well enough that it's just sad to see her go. But in giving us that, I feel like they gave us that scene because they thought they had to, but in giving us that scene, it makes me feel like I'm supposed to care about her more than I do, because Bullock is a real person.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's maybe a catch-22 that they felt like they couldn't get out of or something. I don't know. But you could be right, and that there's more to that. I think that was kind of just a continuity thing they thought they had to pay off.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wish we could just write Fish out of the show now, because she lost, right? What more is there to do with that?
Excellent point. I don't know. And that would help us not juggle too many characters. I mean, it makes a lot of sense to have that character that we've never heard of that's kind of running a lot of things, and then, we get... But you're right, she lost. And honestly, we didn't talk about this last time. I think it was last episode. No, it was the previous one, and it was kind of what they left the cliffhanger on. When Penguin takes over her club and walks in, and just the delivery, the emphasis on, hello, Fish. I love the way he did that.
Yeah.
And the reason I love that is because we keep talking about this whole Penguin eats fish thing. That would have been the perfect time to just get rid of her.
Yeah, no, that's true. It would work perfectly. And I mean, speaking of juggling too many characters, Detective Allen is still in the main title credits. I have no idea who this person is. It's been 14 episodes, and he has no character and no lines.
Well, I don't think he or Montoya's been in the show since the last time we saw Montoya in that... Well, and he wasn't even there. But I mean, I don't think even Montoya's been in the show for 4 or 5 episodes.
Yeah, and I mean, even if they had long stints of not being there, at least Montoya's had dialogue. Allen had one line in the pilot. He's still in the credits. Why are we keeping this many characters here?
Yeah, it's a good point. I don't know. And that's one of those really weird things in adaptation where it's like, well, he's a character people have heard of, so we keep bringing him up.
Yeah, maybe. It's just a matter of it'd be one thing if he was a recurring character, but no, he's listed as a main character.
Well, Steve,
that's strange.
Go ahead and give us the answer to your trivia question, and we'll go ahead and end off.
The answer is bats.
I should have guessed, Steve.
It's weird because there's no character in the Batman universe aside from Bruce himself that are afraid of bats, except for maybe Scarecrow, and then they retcon that.
Was he afraid of bats before he fought Batman?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's cool. That's really interesting.
Scarecrow Year 1 is really good if you haven't read it.
Do they play it like Begins does, where Bruce is actually afraid of bats, or just where he becomes Batman because he sees a bunch of bats?
Well, it's not Bruce, it's Scarecrow, so...
No, that's not what I mean. That's what I mean. It's inherently interesting if Bruce and Scarecrow are both scared of bats.
Yeah, they do it that way. They do a parallel thing where
that's awesome. Bruce
is afraid of bats because of a childhood incident, just like Batman Begins.
Okay.
And they do a Scarecrow thing of he's afraid of bats for almost the same reason, but he didn't have any kind of, bad experience with them. They just terrify him, inherently.
Well, and also, I mean, I haven't read it, but also, I would assume that part of what would be cool about doing that would be he also doesn't have any kind of impetus or motivation to take that fear and channel it in a positive direction, like Batman does.
Yeah, he's got the opposite. So he's got that fear of bats, but they still play up the Jebediah Crane. He looks like a scarecrow. People bully him because of Sleepy Hollow. And so he uses the fact that he's afraid of bats and people hate him because they don't understand him. And he turns that into, well, people are afraid of what they don't understand. Let's scare everyone. And let's explore people let's exploit people when they're afraid, because that's the best way to get to know them if you can't talk to them.
I gotta read that. Boy, I need to start making more of a list of everything I need to read that Steve brings up. That sounds really fascinating. Well, anyway, excuse me, everybody that's watching this as a separate video, thanks a lot for being here. We sure appreciate it. And we will see you next week with more Gotham discussions. Steve, I'm with you. I'm happier right now, but I'm still trepidatious. I'm a little trepidatious.
Yeah, I think you said this last week, but even when the episodes are bad, we're still looking forward to them week to week. I think now there's a cautious optimism to them every week. I want this two-parter to be really good, and so far it hasn't let me down yet, and I want that to be the trend.
It being a two-parter, I hope that we don't suddenly drop stuff that mattered a lot in this first episode because of the ongoing narrative. I hope the Penguin stuff is still there. I hope Barbara still isn't, but I hope that all the time. So
yeah, it's possible that season 2, because they already got renewed, that season 2 will be a lot tighter, because it seems like season 1 is just experimenting and jumping all over the place because they didn't know what was going to sell them. Yeah. And now they feel like they have to maintain that because that's what got them their ratings.
Well,
so season 2 might have a different direction.
We have been comparing this to 24 the whole time, and 24 had exactly that problem.
Yeah, that's true.
And season 2 was a great deal better than season 1 for that series. Yeah. So
that show got progressively better up until about season 5. So maybe that's what we have here.
Yeah. Well, until season 5 is his best season, and then 6 was pretty bad. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think there was some production shakeup after that, wasn't there?
I don't know the history on that.
Okay, it's been a while since I've seen all of it too, so we'd have to look into it. But yeah, maybe it's following the 24 format. It still uses 24 music.
Yeah, I was going to say, for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, part of the reason we keep comparing this to 24 is because the theme is almost exactly the same theme as 24, which keeps driving me crazy even now. And it's in, I think, 24's old time slot. I know 24 was on Mondays. I think it's in its old time slot.
I think it is too. It's weird because now every day when I watch the show, I keep expecting Gordon to say, "My name is Jim Gordon. This is the longest day of my life."
and then Bullock's like, "These events occur in real time."
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see, who would be more fun to hear say that? Fish. These events occur in real time.
Maybe Penguin.
Yeah, that'd be good. Well, anyway.
Maybe menacing.
Everybody, thanks a lot. This show in real time actually could work. And you know why it could work? Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to say this really quick. We've already said goodbye, but I'm going to say this really quick. It could work because it's juggling way too many freaking characters. That would be the time. Anyway, everybody, thanks a lot for watching. We sure appreciate it. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Steve Baxi.
And we'll see you again next week. And now we're gonna say goodbye again. So, everybody that's been watching the big, long, crazy video where you get to see all of our wackiness in between, thanks for joining us. Sure appreciate it. Once again, sorry it wasn't live. Nothing we could do about it. I am hoping to get this strike issue resolved this week, and barring any more of those, the channel will still be around. and then hopefully we'll get it revoked, and the next week we can go live again. But we do have every intention of going live as soon as humanly possible. And this was a lot of fun as always, Steve. I appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was great talking with Dan and Manos as well on some of these shows.
Yep, and thanks to them as always for being with us. We'll see you again next week, everybody. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Steve.
Bye.